All right, Councilperson Lucido,
Here.
Councilperson Curley,
Here.
and Mayor Owens.
Here, thank you. The next item is hearing of the public. Would anybody like to speak at this time concerning the budget? Mr. Fairbrother, do you see anyone?
Let's see here. The chat is now open and has been for the last few minutes. Admittedly, it looks like it's pretty much all city employees and council members.
There was some other click that this one is what I clicked, so I can hear everyone now. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
There are no hands currently raised.
seeing none, the hearing of the public is closed. Let's get right into the discussion on the fiscal year 2020-2021 proposed budget. We're going to start with the library. We have the directors here. Good evening, everyone, for joining. And I would like to compliment you all on this budget. You guys did an awesome job. I know the budget will change because of the virus going forward. We don't know those changes as of now, so we're going by what we see in front of us. We're going to start with the library.
Hello.
Hi. Can you please tell everyone your name that doesn't know your name?
This is Carol Sterling. I'm the director of the Eastpointe Memorial Library.
Thank you. So you want to go ahead and start on your part, or how do you guys want to open this up? Do you want to do it by section that we have listed, correct?
Well, no, I don't normally. Generally, I over the past few years, especially since we got the second millage, our library's been, or the budget's stayed pretty stable, and it's like every year, except for capital improvement projects, which we have one that's been on the books for 3 years. We're finally going to get it done, and that's the heating and cooling in the
Ms. Sterling,
yes.
Let's do this over. I'm going to open this budget up with the city manager, Ms. Doom.
Okay.
So then she can direct it on how she wants everybody to say what part they want to say, because she has an opening statement, and then she have and then we have the finance director. So Ms. Doom, thank you.
Yes.
We'll do it that way, so then she can open it up and we can be in order. So she's gonna do her opening statement and things like that.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Doom. Thank you.
Sure. I'll start with the let's see. I know I tried to give you a budget message the last meeting, and I got cut out so much. What? I'm on TV now? Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. I thought I was on TV already.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Right.
It's a brand new laptop they gave me, so it's got a couple of quirks in it. So anyways, the budget message, of course, incorporates a uniform chart of accounts as required under Michigan Public Act 451 of 1982. So this budget was prepared with a focus on the requirements of the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation, and it's anticipated it will again be submitted for review and recognition in meeting those requirements. Now, the City of Eastpointe, and I'm not going to read everything because I will put you all to sleep, but the structure is a number of funds. 11 of these funds are classified as active, operational, debt service, or capital outlay, which are presented in this budget. Other city funds can be characterized as trust and agency funds and may be excluded from primary budget consideration as prescribed by the Uniform Accounting and Budget Act. So bottom line is we're giving you a balanced budget. We do have some assumptions in our proposed budget. We have revenue assumptions that our property taxes will increase by 1.9%. Revenue sharing was anticipated to increase 2.0%, but that's pre-COVID-19 and we don't have numbers yet. All other revenues are neutral. We do have some expenditure assumptions coming our way. General fund capital projects, $1,250,000. At this moment, we are in negotiations with our units, our various unions and their employees. So we do not have a wage adjustment at this time. We're expecting a health insurance increase of about 3%, retiree health care 8%, Pension costs, 7.1% increase. Other benefits and insurance, 3.0%, and others are pretty flat. Now, you'll see that the budget provides for a general operating tax of 18.4914 mils, which is a decrease from the previous year. The city will continue to levy a 1% administration fee on all tax collections as permitted by state law, generating an estimate $414,000 in revenue and an increase of about $14,000 from the previous year. Now, as a result of the levying of the administrative fee, the city does not charge school districts for collection taxes. The city taxable value has increased by $24.3 million, from $483 million to $507.4 million. Now, what is not in this budget is a recent real comp statement that I have from our assessor that shows, despite the virus and the impact and how sales have kind of slowed down because people can't come into their homes to view them, we still are showing an increase over last year of the values in our homes that are being listed and the homes that have sold. So that's a real positive sign for the city of Eastpointe. We're expecting even more in revenue next year despite COVID-19 because our values are going up considerably. So I'll move on just a little bit more. The city expects to realize a $9.3 million in general operating property tax revenue, increase of more than $377,000 from the previous year. Now, we do not know with COVID-19, as Randy, and I'll have him speak a little bit more to this, he's gotten correspondence today about a package that is coming through the state that will be utilized to help cities offset the costs and also the potential decline in revenues from COVID-19, but we don't know yet. So we just have to make estimates. Now we're going to work on the assumption that revenues may decrease for 2021. Not a drastic reduction, but it certainly has been impacted through gasoline taxes, business revenue, and it has been a blow to our economy, the state economy. It's not reflected. We can't quantify this at this time. So the budget we have is, I want to shout out to everyone who has worked on their budgets, looked for ways to maximize their staffing, maximize everything they can on behalf of the city. So I won't go too much further into detail because I could read all night long. But what I'd like to start with is, as Carol Sterling was saying, that she has a millage that funds the library. So her millage is not going to be as impacted as potentially other budgets. And I'd like to, at this time, turn it over to Carol and have her tell us a little bit about the budget and what they are planning to do for next year. So Carol, can you take it away?
Sure.
Okay.
The budget, other than we'll be using that capital improvement for the heating and cooling this year, it really, other than tweaking it a little, moving things around, for instance, the custodian is now part of the part-time employees because we hire them ourselves. It's not a contractual custodial anymore. So that changed. It really, and right now, like you said, we won't really know until it's over what kind of impact that this is going to have at the library. I'll tell you right now, I know it's going to impact the Friends who have done a lot in this library, a lot of the improvements they paid for, and they had no fundraisers, no income that they get every day from, they sell things here. So they're going to, I think, really be more impacted than the library itself is. And right now, I think because I've sort of saved things up the past few years, I think we won't have to go into our fund balance. I think we're going to be okay. But then, who knows? It could change. So right now, I haven't changed anything since this started. It's what I did in February.
Okay. Carol, if I may,
Sure.
have you had any correspondence with the state
Oh, yes. And
potential income loss and how they may be able to assist you?
yes,
Okay.
especially the directors of all the libraries in our cooperative meet every week. And they keep in touch with the state and let us know what's going on. And they're already, they're in Lansing, they're working on getting specifically for libraries, some sort of, I don't know, I'm looking for the words. What's the word?
Kind of an aid
Some kind of-
package?
yes, there you go, an aid package. That's what I was looking
Okay.
for. An MLA, Michigan Library Association, they work with the state a lot too.
Okay.
And we've all contacted our representatives and things like that to let them know.
So it's business as usual for the library.
Oh, yeah. No, we are gearing up to open. No, it's not usual. We usually have people. And we have all the PPE for the circ desk and reference. We have the plexiglass just needs to be installed. Reference librarians, because they're out in the middle, those things won't work. They have the face shields.
Okay.
And then we will have enough masks and gloves and sanitizers so that if people come in, we can give it to them if they don't have it, so that they'll be protected. And we will limit the number of people who come in. And we're no longer accepting any donations of anything, just because we don't know where it's coming from, so we don't want it. So
Okay.
we're all the libraries, and it's going to be like a soft opening. The first week we'll do curb service only and that kind of thing, and then slowly get people in here. But a lot of the people are missing using the computers because they need it for their unemployment, their census. What's the other thing? There's like 3 things that they, people who don't own one, they have no way to get to. The library was the only thing. So, but we've separated them all. There's going to be 6 feet between every computer.
Okay. I know you've taken a lot of steps to be cautious and careful.
Yes, because we want to be open. They miss us.
All right. So at this point, I'll turn it over to council if they have any questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question, and thank you for putting this together again. What's the what was the impact of the COVID-19 with the, the due dates and the money that was made in the last
the whole cooperative, everything's moved back. I mean, no one, it doesn't matter when, and then there's even a 2-week grace period after that. Right, everything, due dates, expiration dates of cards, everything now is moved. Every time it got longer, we moved it forward because people call us. No one will have to pay for anything because this is nobody's fault, so that's taken care of.
Now, were people still contacting you? Because I know you guys were doing deliveries as well.
Yes, we do some, predominantly homebound. They love it. Every book, according to CDC, every book should be, or any material of the library should be quarantined for 24 hours before it goes out. We quarantine them 48 to 90 hours before. But most of what we get is been sitting in here for months. I mean, it's okay. And then we have masks on, gloves on. We tell them, stay in your house. We ring the doorbell, put it on the porch, and we're gone. So they're very happy.
Do you foresee keeping that going?
No.
I know it probably was a lot of work, but it probably saved a lot of lives as well. So
well, yeah. And well, actually a couple of years ago we went to her home and made a card for a woman who is very, very homebound. Not because of a disease, I mean, she's just homebound. And we talked then about we might do that for people who literally just their whole life they're homebound. But for this purposes, these are people who are homebound because of this COVID. So we won't be doing that because we go out, it takes us half a day and it's twice a week. So
I mean, since this whole thing happened, it makes people be more innovative, think about new ways to bring in income. That might be one way of a service that the library may want to provide, and say, if you want deliveries to your house or things like that. It's just the idea, to bring more income in the library, because just like you said, the friends might not be making enough, as much money and things like that.
But we wouldn't charge people for it.
Well, those that are homebound, as far as disabled and things like that, yeah. But I'm saying if I wanted to get, you know, delivery of books, just like Amazon does books, and other people that are on another level, that delivery is huge these days. So I'm just saying another way of bringing in revenue, since you already had the experience of doing it, and just charging people a fee to, you know, pick up and drop off. That was just something you know, that came to mind when we just started talking. Now,
Okay.
also with the computer desk, because me and my children go there all the time. I see you all the time, of course. The division of the computer desk, have you ever thought of something, some type of way to divide, like some type of wall in between each computer to separate each resident or a customer coming in? Because I know you got it 6 feet apart, but some type of, you know, not plexiglass, if that's available, but some type of wall, cubicle wall that can separate each computer until, you know, some of this stuff, because just because things are opening, we don't want to rush and do things the same way. We want to still be cautious. So I think that we can get some type of cubicles. They cost, I mean, we might have some in the basement. We hold a lot of different, you know, old stuff here. So that might be something that you might want to think about doing.
Okay.
Just to, you know, make you safer, the residents safer, and people who coming in and out. So just some ideas of getting new revenue in and keeping the residents safe. That's all I
Okay.
had. Council?
Sure, I had a quick question. Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining
Hi.
Zoom. What was the date on that soft opening you were talking about, or what was the?
Well, right now, the June 1st,
Okay. And
unless
then,
it's changed again.
well, sure, of course. And then I think I had a question for Randy. Then what was the amount, or I don't see the heating and cooling costs in the CIP? I think we should have that back there, right?
There's a line item for 25,000.
Okay.
Building addition and improvement.
Yeah, it's here.
And the
The
CIP,
line
well,
item detail that I provided you, it's on page 55.
right, I'm just in the overall CIP part of the budget. Usually all those items are back there.
I can't speak to that particular chart. It's not
Okay.
mine. It's in the budget though.
Who? What do you mean it's not yours?
That's not one of my schedules.
Okay, well, I guess whoever's it is, they should be coordinated, I guess. I mean, they should be consistent.
Already, I'm the one who typically puts together the CIP. So if that's something that council wishes to have it included, I mean, that's fine. I have no issue with also including it under there.
Well, I guess I like to see it as a consistent across all departments, so we know what the one-time capital costs are. But that was all. Thanks, Carol.
Okay.
Anybody else in council want to go speak on the library?
I would just like to take a minute to thank Carol for running the library smoothly and making sure that she's taking the proper precautions for the residents when they come back.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good work as usual. We're going to go to the court is next item B. Under the court, I don't know if Ms. Doom want to introduce everybody before they come in or speak on it, and then we go to the next one. Ms. Doom.
Well, we've got Karen Haydet. She's with us, and Carol, take it away.
All right, good, bye.
Carol? Okay, Karen is on mute. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Karen. I'm the Magistrate Court Administrator from the 38th District Court. I submitted the budget to the city, spoke with Mr. Blum last week. So if anyone, obviously, the court is taking directions from the Michigan Supreme Court as well as the State Court Administrator's Office. They're pretty much advising the courts. The courts will be doing a 4-phase gating before we can actually begin to open to the public. This Friday, the Macomb County Court Administrators have a meeting with the Director of Macomb Community Health to see what the community health numbers are, because the Supreme Court is mandating in phase 1 that the courts have to be looking at the availability of what Macomb County's COVID results are, number of beds available in the hospitals in Macomb County, as well as having PPE on hand. Obviously, we've been closed to the court for a while now. Court has only been doing arraignments in custody or individuals that are turning themselves in custody via Zoom. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to address anything that I can.
Counsel, thank you so much.
I just had one question. If you could just explain a little bit on why we need an increase in our security hours. I mean, it seems kind of obvious, but just to have it, everyone knows.
The increase in security hours prior to the COVID virus, in addition, the caseload numbers are starting to go up, and unfortunately, individuals who are just given the traffic citations aren't the only parties coming to the court. Is for controlling issues in the lobby, courtroom, as well as when stuff overflows out and to the parking lot. In addition, once the court gets to the phase 4 to begin opening back up to the public, with the new restrictions effective May 1st, originally our court had cell phones banned from the court building due to the fact some people would videotape victims and witnesses or go out to the parking lot and try and take pictures of license plates and vehicle makes and models. Effective May 1st, the Supreme Court issued an order that all cell phones are now allowed to enter back into the court facility. So we've been drafting a order to address those phones coming back in. And unfortunately, that in addition to limiting the amount of people into the courtroom, the court's going to need the additional security in place to assist with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sure, Mayor, just want to ask, so it looks like you'll be trying to implement that the MyFile?
Yes. That's going to be more likely in one of the phases so that people aren't coming into the court. They'll be coming through the electronic system.
Okay, yeah.
As of right now, Macomb County Circuit Court, anytime anyone appeals anything, everything has to be filed through their e-filing system. It's just going to be the question, do the factor on different software, finding a compatible company that can adapt to the software that we have.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Karen.
Yep.
Is that the iPads that you just bought? Is that for that
Nope.
system?
No,
Okay,
the iPads
Just so
are gonna
council
be-
knows, there's going to be a bill coming up for iPads, and then she can explain it.
The iPads had to be purchased in order to conduct Zoom. We do have a Polycom system. Unfortunately, trying to get other people in the public to download the Polycom app is a little bit more difficult. So the state gave all free Zoom accounts to the courts for the judges and the magistrates to do that. So we've been utilizing the iPads. The judges been doing some matters from home via Zoom. If we have defendants that are in the hospital, an iPad has to go to the hospital as opposed to having the officer take out his cell phone and doing FaceTime. There'll be iPad on a stand back in our lockup, separate from the police department's lockup, so that we're not bringing defendants to and from the courtroom. And then there'll be an iPad in room 4 for any attorneys that would like to be Zooming in to talk to the county prosecutor as well as the city attorney. In addition, the court's been trying to get additional supplies for the court if and when we open up, as far as 18th District Court was able to find a vendor to assist all the courts in the state of Michigan for N95 masks as well as surgical masks. We're in the process of getting additional Lysol wipes so that desks can be wiped down after the public comes in and out, or after and a court employee has contact with the public.
Okay. Any more questions, council? Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Everyone
so
stay
much.
safe.
Good job. You stay safe, you and your daughter as well.
Thank
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next item is the DDA Economic Development. Ms. Doom.
Yes, I'd like to change that just slightly to DDA, Economic Development and Planning. So we'll have Kim start and Mary in tandem as they share a little bit about what's happening in those respective areas. So Kim, we'll start with you first.
Okay. For economic development, it's probably one of the shortest. The items in the budget are basically my salary, and we included some time for overtime at City Council, and then some part-time wages. The hope was that the city would be hiring someone to handle communications and other items, and then that person could also spend some time in economic development, helping me gather things up and do some marketing on the different programs that we're trying to do through economic development once all this craziness is over.
Ms. Doom.
Yes, I don't have any questions for Kim. Does council have any for her?
I have some questions for her. How you doing, Ms.
How are you,
Holman?
Mayor?
I'm good. I want to know what was because I know you said we can't really talk about, well, you say you don't have some some answers for us. But my question was, because I know we have a lot of people who want businesses that are on hold, and that's money that's being on hold. I want to know how many businesses we have on hold that might be getting approved, that needs to be approved, because I have had people email me and said that they're trying to bring business to Eastpointe, and they're at a standstill, and they're thinking about going somewhere else. Even the current businesses that we have are saying that they're having problems with the building department. They're going to go somewhere else, and I don't want to lose these people. So I want to know what kind of programs that you have to, help these people, or are we going to be relaxed on some things that are not a big deal, because we need these businesses to stay in our city because that's our tax revenue. So can you give me some strategic ways or things that, because I know you probably got these same calls and these same concerns possibly, and I want to know what was some of the feedback that you were giving these people that called you.
That specific issue is probably something that Mary can answer as it relates to starting new businesses. She does have a whole program. Okay. On a personal level, I think that it would be nice for the city to do what we can to ensure that, that we streamline all the processes, and, don't listen, Randy, but, if we have to waive some fees here and there, I'm in favor, but that's not my decision. So Mary, maybe you can answer the question about the new businesses and the ones that are waiting for things.
Well, one more thing I want to add before she interjected was also we talked about earlier this year about the big boys as well. And I want to know what was going on with that, because if we get someone to bring new construction and new building and development at Eastpointe, that would be huge to bring more people to live here in the city. So how was that whole idea coming along?
So we did get some feedback from the MEDC, the state, as well as their consultants through the Redevelopment Ready City program that they are funding for us. Right now, they are, as you know from the presentation, the proposal was a 3 to 4 story with actually condos above, and then retail, unique retail and other businesses on the bottom floor. There is a very severe gap financially as to whether we can make it happen. I actually have a call out to Mr. Curris to see where he stands right now, where things stand with the building. The state and its partners are we're ready to move and help us. Now, of course, funding may be pulled back a little bit, but we're juggling around to see the financial feasibility of what was proposed and whether or not that's something that should be marketed to see if we can get any attention or if we should start over with a different idea for the property. But it is moving behind the scenes, and the Michigan Municipal League has been great, as have the state and then their private consultants.
Okay.
So hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll know a little bit more.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the next person was Miss Van Haren. How you doing? We can't hear you. Okay, great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Do you want me to first respond to the question about the businesses?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. So I prepared just last week, and I'm hoping you all received a copy of it in City Manager Doom's weekly report, kind of an update for the Planning Commission, copied City Council on all the business activity that has been before the Planning Commission, or that is about to go before the Planning Commission. And kind of with the explanation that we really aren't in a position right now to hold a meeting for June, because we have to hold public hearings for the variety of businesses, and they haven't had their final approval and review from our planning consultants yet. So we're looking at a new used car facility on Gratiot, a auto repair on 9 Mile. We're still looking at an auto sales on 8 Mile Road that we're waiting for some final documentation on. And trying to think of what the other one was.
Cars, and more cars.
Yeah, it was a lot of cars going on. But anyhow, so gave the update, and we've been in continual communication with these folks. And in fact, to the point where we're kind of bugging them to turn paperwork in so we can get them before the Planning Commission. In addition, I've been, talking to businesses. The only ones that I've gotten any calls from that are anxious to proceed are some medical marijuana facilities. Okay. Kim and I have had a few meetings with folks that are interested in one particular facility on Gratiot. And we're not in a position to do anything about that right now, but we're still talking to them and even meeting with them and discussing, ordinance provisions that are on the books for different types of businesses. So I'm not aware of any other businesses at all that are coming to us and asking for information or inspections that are being held up in any way. And certainly I'd love to, be able to communicate with them and move things along.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no reason, yeah.
I think I'm gonna start sending all those emails to you so you can give them the correct,
and between Kim and I, we'll handle it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they're saying that they want to stay here in Eastpointe, and certain things that they can't pay for. They lost a lot of money, so some of the things that we're asking them to fix are not in their budget. So I don't want to lose certain people, because if they lost all this money and then we're saying, oh, you got to get that fixed in your, your business. Now we probably lost about $3 grand or, a certain amount of money in tax revenue because someone wasn't lenient on, what has just happened throughout the whole country, so.
Yeah. And that might be a bigger conversation for council or for administration to have regarding easing restrictions or requirements or regulations for businesses that, if our ordinance says they have to do something, it's not within my ability to waive those requirements. So that might be a bigger conversation to have regarding some of those specifics.
Right. That would, just to, for right now, to get the businesses back up and running so they can know that they can stay here and that we care about them investing in the city of Eastpointe.
Sure.
That's important to me because we need that money to pay for so many things.
Madam, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that it's something that maybe the Planning Commission could look at also, if they would be interested in easing those restrictions. I think that the recommendation should come from planning.
Oh, are you done? I don't know. Were you done? I'm done. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good. And Mayor, Mary, the car wash and Circle K, I think were the other two. I just pulled up your document that you had sent us. Were the other two businesses. You're muted again.
We also had an event space on 10 Mile near Kelly
That's
that
right.
was going before the Planning Commission. That's another one that I wasn't remembering offhand.
Yep.
Yeah. And certainly Planning Commission can have that discussion, but I'm not sure how much of it is within their ability to ease restrictions, because it's, you know, it's an ordinance. If it's a requirement.
By council and mayor.
Yeah.
Right, that we have to change, but we just,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just
We
like to
certainly
get
have been not coming down on any of the businesses that have temporary signs out in this period of time, you know, letting the public know that they're open for business. We've kind of, you know, ignored those, understanding that they need to, you know, do a little bit more promotion of themselves. So that's something we haven't been bugging people about.
Well, maybe me and council and also including the planning commission can find out ways to either, you know, relax some of the ordinances for up to a certain amount of time, you know, just to get the businesses back in running and things like that, or relax on some fees, whatever, you know, comes to mind that, you know, is won't put us in a financial situation, but also continuously keep businesses here. That'll be something that council and the planning commission can do together as a team. So,
Okay.
Ms. Doom, I think you wanted to say something.
I did. You know, it's interesting that we're talking about these businesses that would like to either locate or like to make some changes. Mary and I and Kim had a very interesting conversation with representatives of the BP on Gratiot 9 Mile. Now, they are grandfathered in because this is a DDA and it doesn't allow gas stations. They're not going to make that gas station go away. It's profitable for them, but they have put out some beautiful plans on how they can redevelop that site, put in, you know, their food and their store and repave and change the entrances. But according to our ordinances for DDA, we can't allow them to do that. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I have to keep on waving this light on it. So that's why you guys see me going off and on.
I might have to do it too if I go in
Maybe
the
we need to
dark.
add that to the budget, a light that really works, you know. So
I hear you.
I go
So
off and on if you turn on the light, and I don't want to be rude in the middle of you guys having a conversation.
Well, if you see me doing it, I'm.
So yeah, so I think someone was going to speak. Was it Ms. Van Haren?
Well, I think we lost Miss Doom. She was still talking, and it.
I have to do the sign.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah, we can't hear you yet, Elkie. We did hear in the middle of the sentence, but
Right.
we lost you.
Look at Harvey.
Yeah.
Well, until she gets going, it was really, I mean, the BP owners are willing to put quite a bit of investment. I mean, they're looking at big money, and the drawings were spectacular. So there was some conversation with them about the next steps, and Mary actually was great. So I'm sure that they will be approaching council sometime soon. Of course, then all this happened, but you know, something to think about if they're willing to put easily tens of thousands of dollars to really make that corner look better. And they had even masonry walls around where needed, and fixing up around the bus stop and things like that. So it was quite something.
Yeah. And so
I'm sorry.
What we discussed with them was that they really need to ask city council to direct the planning commission, if you're so inclined, to look at maybe modifying those ordinances that might allow an existing business in the DDA to be able to improve and do an expansion or modify, even though they're a legal non-conforming use in that district. And the proper way of changing the ordinance that would allow that would be city council to say, yes, we like the idea of changing that. Let's direct the planning commission to consider that revision to the ordinance. And so they were putting their, thoughts together in a nice, precise manner. And then I do believe they'll come before the city council and request that you consider modification.
Since we are on the talks of ordinances and things like that, I know we put up a policy about our housing. Let's talk about the houses that we own. I think at this point we need to start getting rid of them, because I know before the plan was to fix them up, and due to this whole pandemic, fixing up to me seems like it shouldn't even be an option. Let's get rid of these houses, because we were assumed to be buying some more houses. And unfortunately, due to what has happened, a rise of foreclosures may be coming.
Yep.
And we might be losing revenue, residents and et cetera. I know in here it says we have a percentage of increase, but we don't, that is not as accurate as I want it to be. As we all know, things may change and we don't want to see people losing houses. So I think that we should do what was proposed before, and if propose these houses to people that already live in Eastpointe, work in Eastpointe and things like that, and sell them as is and get the profit. You're going to get a couple houses coming up soon, get the profit. I don't think we should be spending so much money into these houses, because once we put all this money into these homes, they may not be affordable for the people that we're trying to serve. Because we spent $5,000 on a home and put $30,000, $40,000. If you look in the reports, most people in the city of Eastpointe, I think it was made about $50,000 a year. The highest percentage of people. So you want them to, so, during this pandemic, I just want to just have us look at the things that we own and the things that we need to sell, because other things are coming along, and what are we going to do about that? So also the buildings that we own, the commercial property that is in the DDA area. I haven't heard anything about what are we doing with that as well. Ms. Holman?
Member Curley has his hand raised, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Curley?
You're on
You're
mute.
muted.
Brian, can you unmute him?
I'm trying to do the ear and the we can't hear you thing.
Oh, he's good.
There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just one question, Mary. The folks over at the gas station, you had mentioned that they'll probably come to the city council. Have they been advised, is that's where they have to come? Have they been told that's what they need to do?
Yes, that's exactly the direction we gave them.
Okay.
Just as a they can either send, I advise that they could either send a letter to the city council, or they could send a letter and come to a meeting, and even during the public, speaking of the public, they can just ask council to consider this. I think another option was to put them on as an agenda item. So we gave them a variety of options, but it was all starting with the city council.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful plan, and as we all know, there's not an ordinance that has been written that can't be changed.
That's right.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Curley. I also want to know, has McKenna looked at those ideas that the gas station was talking about? Because I know they work with planning in our city.
Yeah, they have not yet. I think that the point at which they would look at them is if the city council expressed an interest in being able to offer those, that leniency to an existing business, and then we started considering ordinances. And McKenna quite some time ago gave their opinion that it would not be permitted to be expanded with our current ordinances, that they would not allow an expansion because it is a legal non-conforming use in that zoning district. And that's the extent at which they gave their thoughts on it at this point.
Yeah, I would like McKenna I would think McKenna would look at it and tell us the good and the bad and the ugly of why we would consider it. We would like to see that, because, I don't know. I know I'm not that skilled in planning. I don't know the history of council and education and things like that. So people that we do pay for that information and that study, I would like to see that.
And I think that's a great idea, Mayor. In fact, at such time that the folks from BP pose that question to council, maybe that's the first thing council can ask, is for that sort of a review by McKenna, so that you can look at that before you send it off to Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Now, the houses we were talking about, the tax reverse, Councilwoman.
I just have one quick question in reference to actually the houses we own. Ms. Holman, how many homes do we own right now that we haven't already agreed to sell to? I know we sold some to Live Life and Habitat. So how many remaining homes do we have left?
We don't have any homes left. They're all spoken for. The Love Life proposal has not yet come before council for approval, but Habitat already purchased the 4 that they're going to start work. and start clearing them out, changing locks and things like that. So what I will do is I'm staying in touch because, as we know, the churches are going through some hard times right now. And if anything changes, I will keep you updated. But my goal is, and the last time I talked with Love Life a week or two ago, the goal was to get them back onto the council agenda for review and approval.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, because I know they were on there and then they stepped down from that. So maybe we can give them a deadline because we want to get those houses sold.
Will do.
I just feel like the houses shouldn't be on hold when people can buy those houses because our bills are not on hold. We have to pay bills. Also, now the businesses that we own, tell me more about that, please.
We own 2 commercial structures, one on Kelly that's in very bad shape. There are huge holes in the roof and a lot of mold. And then we have the small 2 storefronts side by side on Gratiot in the DDA. We are waiting for this to be over. We have a tenant on one side that we are going to have to ask to leave. And of course, we can't do any type of request to leave or notice to quit or evictions at this time. That's been all closed down in the courts.
I say we have a tenant in one of them,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And that's the owner, correct?
No, this was a tenant of the person who lost the property. It's one property, it's divided in 2 halves.
Did we ask them, did they want to buy it from us since they're already in there?
That would be a question for Randy because I think that the prior conversations were that, Randy, you answer that if you would.
Well, we had actually approached her. She does not have the money to buy the property. It's a hair braiding salon type thing. She isn't even paying us rent, even though we were trying to get her to pay some rent while she stayed there. She has not provided us with any insurance, but in the meantime, COVID came along, so now we can't kick her out.
Okay.
But the plan had been we were going to evict her, get her out of the property, so that it would then be opened up for the possibility of putting it on the market. But right now we're stuck with basically a squatter. And that's the best way to put it.
Well, thank you for asking her and offering that to her, because I know we did that with the church too. So maybe we can. Now, I thought that Habitat was getting the property off Kelly. That was a no-go.
They're still interested in that one.
Okay.
Again, everything sort of came to a screeching halt, but they are still very much interested in that one.
Okay, when they're interested in saying yes, they're going to do it, is that tax revenue included in the budget or no? Until it's a complete yay on that. How does that work, Mr. Blum?
We put in a number for sale of properties. It always matches what we think we're going to spend on buying new ones. We never budget a profit. That way we're not disappointed.
Right.
But realistically, we don't know what we're going to sell. We don't even know if we're going to get any this year.
Okay.
Right now, the governor's order prohibits foreclosures through June 1st. If she does not extend it, I don't know what our county treasurer is going to do. I understand Wayne County Treasurer has said they will not do any foreclosures this year. I have not heard anything from our county treasurer. So we may not receive any new properties this year.
Okay. I had a question.
That's another unknown.
I had a question, Mr. Blum, while I got you here, because it was from a lady that owns a home in Eastpointe, but she rented out. I don't know if you had this answer or not. I'm still actually you so smart. So what happened was, we couldn't evict any of the renters. And so, but on top of that, that lady who had to let the renter stay in her house and couldn't evict her, she used up so much water and didn't pay the water bill. Is there some type of, money for people, for the landlords who let these renters stay and they haven't paid not any rent or any of the water bills or anything like that? Are they compensated in any way? Do you know?
Nope, that's part of running a business. That's going to be a business loss on her end.
Okay.
I do understand the $3 trillion stimulus that the email went out this afternoon. There is money for rent and mortgage payment assistance, so they might get something that way. But as far as usage of water, they will be stuck with that bill if the tenant doesn't pay it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Council, any questions on the DDA, economic development and planning?
I think I had maybe just one quick one about, we had brought up the medical marijuana ordinance. Is McKenna working on those maps? Will we have those soon?
They are working on those. I anticipate that we'll have them for the first meeting in June for City Council.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Party. We've been waiting on that for a little while now. And I think that was all the questions for DDA, economic development, planning, unless the city manager had anything to add or Mr. Blum had anything to add. If not, thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I interrupt?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to bring this forward because I think that it's not right for you not to understand or for me to try to correct this error that is in my my paperwork here. On page 101, that's where we give the breakdown of the funding level summary. Okay. And my numbers are different than the budget that was actually the total numbers that were included in the budget by $278,000. I left out an entire category. So while my budget appears that it's actually lower than it was last year, it's not. And that actual number, like I said, Randy has that included in the whole total line budget, but my numbers are skewed here and they will have to be corrected. So my total budget for this year should be $1,405,962, which is a difference of $278,812. And that's exactly what my my blight program costs, all the costs involved in that. It is about a little less than 6% increase over my last year's budget.
You say the blight program, was that included in the fixtures of the homes that we were going to fix up in the tax reverted houses, or?
No, the blight program is simply the code enforcement efforts in the city, sending the code enforcement officers out, the cost of the vehicles, the cost of the labor, where they're identifying all the blight, the violations, the junk and debris, the the snow, all that kind of issues. It's not for the repair or the dangerous buildings at all.
Okay.
And I want to point out the line item details correct. The appropriation ordinance is correct. It was just the write-up for Mary's area that missed that piece.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, let's go to the director. I know he can't wait. The police and fire, animal control, and drug forfeiture. I'm gonna open it up with the city manager like I always do. If she wants to add something or include something before she introduces Director Rohit.
I think we can't hear you again. We can't hear her again. No.
No, well, we're just gonna start off with if she wants to chime in afterwards. Director?
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
As you know, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation. And a lot of the information in the PowerPoint is mainly for residents, just to let them know what's been going on in both the police and the fire departments. It gives a pretty good overview of the staffing levels, what we achieved, what we're looking for the next fiscal year. And it also helps the new council people to have a better perspective of what we're doing. In respect to the police department, I can start there. Not much is changing from the last budget, except I am asking for one additional police officer this fiscal year. Right now we have 44 sworn officers. It's the first time in, I think, maybe 7 years that we're at full staffing level here, or a reasonable staffing level. I'm asking for the 45th officer. We do have several officers that are eligible to retire this next fiscal year. I believe I have in here, I want to say there's 8 that can leave. Mainly it's all command people. Our deputy chief would be eligible to retire. We have at least 3 or 4 lieutenants, a sergeant, and a couple patrolmen, and they all intend, I shouldn't say all, but the majority of them will retire next fiscal year. That really is going to put a damper on things here because it is very difficult to hire, and it takes usually about 7 to 8 months to hire somebody and fully train them before they're on their own. So the extra body, it is, the person will probably get us out of the hole a little bit, but we're going to be behind. And I just want to stay ahead of the game. And also with this extra police officer, the patrolmen are talking about possibly going to 12-hour shifts. I don't know. That's the negotiations. But the assumption is if they do, that will give us the opportunity to place 6 patrol officers, not command, but 6 patrol officers on each platoon. That'll be 24. I can have our officer in Matt still, or we can have our 3-man drug crew. And also that would create the traffic position, which I intend on placing a designated traffic officer in various subdivisions throughout the city. That's one of the biggest complaints right now is the speeding cars in the subs. This will certainly help. The other priorities is we want to continue the recruitment process. We want to finalize all our specialized units where the drug unit will be up and running. I'm putting a 2nd officer down there in 2 weeks. The 3rd officer goes down in June. So we will be in full force, the drug unit. I want to continue the building improvements for the police department. We've been making a lot of progress. It's been kind of slow now because of the virus, but we're picking up. One of the other issues is we want to combat blight. We want to expand the neighborhood watch group. We want to create a youth group. We want to start putting on more additional programs for our business community, our seniors, and some type of education for the students at the high school and the middle school. And we want to enhance most of our specialized enforcement details like littering, prostitution, massage parlors, liquor inspections. Certain areas are getting hit hard with vehicle thefts and larceny from autos. We want to place undercover officers in those areas to try to arrest certain people. If you look throughout the budget, there's not much changing. Obviously, the wages may change a little because if you approve the additional officer, the overtime, you'll note that this year we were budgeted for $175,000. That was just an unrealistic number. The assumption was we would be at full staffing, but however, we had to eliminate several officers from our field training officer program. They didn't successfully pass. So in the meantime, they're still in training. Field training officer gets paid extra a day. Plus we had a number of incidents in the city involving a lot of investigations that caused a lot of overtime. But I go on historical numbers. I go back at least 3, sometimes 4 years. I take an average. And the realistic number is $338,000. Last year alone, we spent $427,000. This year, we're over budget on overtime. We spent $288,000, so we should be close to this $338,000 mark. So that's what I'm gearing for. So you will see an increase in there, a request. Operating costs will stay basically the same. Community promotions, I've asked for a few more dollars for a scholarship program and a youth program and to enhance the neighborhood watch group. And the building and site maintenance, it's about the same as last year. I think after this fiscal year, we have one more budget. And I think with all the projects we have listed, the police department will be in very good shape. I mean, we decided that we do not need a new building at this point. I think if we make the proper reasonable investments in the building, it will be standing for at least, you'll get another decade out of it. So, well, basically in respect to the police, everything's about the same except the things I discussed.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Sure, I've got some questions. Thanks for joining, George.
No problem.
Appreciate the update. The extra officer you're asking for,
yes, sir.
is this correct that the salary is not included in your budget numbers?
Yeah, you know, we talked about this at staff meetings. If we were asking for extra personnel, that the budget would be amended. So I just left it the same. I left it at 44. If council elected not to, you know, hire the extra officer, then we would just leave it the same. If not, we would just adjust it appropriately.
Well, I guess to me, I guess I have a bigger question. I don't know if this be for Elke or Randy. Then I don't think it makes any sense to ask for something and it not be budgeted, though. I don't understand this.
I don't know if Elke's mic is working. We had decided in advance that we were not going to be adding any new personnel. While, you know, I'm confident where we're at that we can afford it. I'm not confident that we can continue to add people. So I know George wants another body. I'm the naysayer saying we can't afford it. And that was the direction for budgeting is don't, excuse me, don't put it in. You know, if we start talking about budget cuts, the 4 new people added last year and all these special units, those are the first things that are going to have to go. So we can do it through attrition with all the retirements coming up, but the police and fire are the most expensive areas, and those are the first ones that are going to have to reduce. So it's kind of silly to add another person in the budget to turn around 6 months from now saying, well, COVID killed us and we got to drop people. So that was the approach we took for budgeting.
See, I'm muted.
We can hear you, Elke.
No, we can hear you. When we're not ready to hear you, we can hear you.
Jump in.
No,
say something on this, what Mr. DeMonico was saying.
No, I agree. We did ask all of our departments to keep their budgets pretty even, not to add new full-time folks. We understand that George is very adamant that he needs another person, but we did not budget for it. So this would be outside of the budget. His request would be directly to you, outside of what we have already budgeted. So you will not see that as part of the budget because that was a request we made of all departments, not to add any full-time additional employees.
Okay. Can we talk overtime also? It seems, well, I guess a similar question here. If we budgeted a certain amount last year, it seems like we blew through that amount, according to what you just said, Mr. Rohib.
It was an unrealistic number to begin with. That was my only, when Mr. Sabota was here, we talked back and forth, and I just know how overtime works. It's based on, a lot of it's based on emergency situations, planned or events that are not planned. I mean, you have a fire department that their overtime budget's $211,000 with half the staff, and you have a police department budget for $175,000 that was cut almost in half because the assumption was, well, we're getting 4 new officers, therefore it's not going to cost that much money, but it doesn't work that way. It takes 8 months to train an officer.
Yeah, that's my question. What are the scenarios for overtime?
Sick time's a big thing. If an officer we have minimum staffing levels. So if the shift falls below that staffing level, we have to call in for overtime. Sick time's big. Court time's another one. Let's say we have a shooting somewhere or a robbery. We call in our detective bureau. They come in and investigate it. Sometimes, I mean, we had a couple incidents this year where it cost the city probably couple 300 hours in overtime, because that's how in-depth the investigation was. Typically, if we have an emergency that holds over the shift, the officer gets overtime. If they're called in early, their contract says they get paid 3 hours call-in time. So those are some situations, but no matter what, the average per week is about, I sign the overtime or the payroll, and they average probably about $6,000 every payroll. That's the average.
So if we did hire more officers though, and you're saying minimum staffing levels, I mean, how many officers, I just like to have an idea, because, obviously, like, between the 175,000 we were talking, or the 430,000, whatever it was,
Right.
that's like 3 full-time police officers ish.
Right.
What, like, how many people need to be sick at once though for us to just call in overtime for like a regular shift?
It all depends. I mean, if there's only 4 officers assigned to that day, and one officer calls in sick, then we have to pay 8 hours of overtime. And that same goes for the command officers. So they're on 12-hour shifts. So if a command officer calls in sick, that's 12 hours of overtime. And another thing too is, a lot of the overtime is generated by going to court, by making arrests. If the officer, for instance, makes a felony arrest, they get a separate court date for that felony. Or they have traffic court that generates overtime. But it's certain, if a certain event happens, let's say a hurricane came through, or a tornado and tore up half the town, I mean, you're going to be paying overtime left and right. That's just how it works. It's very difficult to predict when an emergency is going to happen. So that's why we go on historical numbers. You typically go back 3-4 years, you do the average, and that's your number. That's the only way you can come up with an adequate figure. And again, last year I totally disagreed with this 175 amount, because there's just no way. It's just not going to happen. It's just based on the history of the number, it's just not going to happen. And again, this year alone, we spend almost 300,000. We should be close to that 330, because the overtime has dropped. It has dropped because of the COVID. Our officers are just, we're locking people up just for certain offenses, and they're not making many traffic stops unless they have to. But that will change shortly.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So I kind of agree with Mr. Blum. I think right now, is we don't know the economic impact that COVID's going to have on the city. I don't think at this time it would be wise, like he said, to hire another officer, only because, this is something we could look at maybe next year's budget. We did just, approve to hire 4 last year. Moving forward, we don't know where we're going to be. So I think we do need to be kind of cautious. The last thing I want to do is be put in a situation where we're laying officers off. I don't want to get into that situation. So at this time, I would not feel comfortable approving the request for another officer and keeping the staffing levels where they're at, because I'm already concerned that we might have to consider doing like a hiring freeze if our funding does get cut.
Yeah, I agree with what Councilwoman just said. And I also know the dynamics of where Director Rohib is coming from, because you said we had 8, that's a possibility that may leave the force or retirement and things like that.
We have 8 that are eligible to leave next year.
8 of them?
8.
So that was as part of your succession plan, correct? Hiring this officer?
Yes, but
that's just one, though.
If all 8 leave, I'm just telling you right now, that is going to be a major challenge, because that's 8 command people. That's a major challenge for us. And that's why I wanted to stay, even one officer. It helps out a little bit, but, and let's be realistic, if you did approve 45 sworn officers, I probably won't be at that number for a year, maybe even 2 years, because to hire 8 people is a huge challenge. It is.
When you hired those last 4 people, how long did it take you to hire those people?
From the time you advertise to the time that they're on their own is about approximately 8 months.
Okay. And that isn't a surety that they may pass either.
That's correct. We washed out five candidates out of the field training officer program, 5 of them.
Now,
that set us back several months.
Now, is there any word that any of those 8 command staff said they were going to leave? Because I don't.
Yes, several lieutenants are leaving.
Okay.
We're going to be losing a lot of experience here, and it's typical in this industry. I mean, you'll hire maybe 8, 9 people in 2 years, then there would be a freeze for 5 or 6 years. We have all younger officers coming aboard. All the ones that serve their time are on their way out. But it's going to be very challenging. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's going to be very challenging to hire 8 people in the next, say, 6 to 12 to 18 months.
Now, Sam, just for instance, I was listening to a lot of what everyone was saying. Now, a lot of times you change up how the for instance, you saying they go to 12-hour shifts. Does that save up on overtime?
There's a debate on it. If we go to 12-hour shifts, it'd be 6 officers on each platoon. That means that 2 can be off at a time. So more than likely, if someone calls in sick, we won't have to pay the overtime because the shifts they'll have adequate amount of people on there. It just depends on the situation, and it's all about emergencies. I mean, again, you can't plan when the next emergency is coming in. And a lot of our costs are based on emergencies, certain crimes that need some intense investigation, thorough investigation. And but to say whether we're going to save money, I don't know yet. I mean, I won't know till once we get about 6 months into it.
Can we look at the history of other police stations or facilities that may have, because I know a lot of people go to the 12-hour shift to save money, and I'm trying to make it work for all of us. We save money on this overtime, but yet we can hire another officer for the succession plan. So save money and still have a succession plan with an officer.
I believe we'll save money. I really do. How much, I don't know. I don't know at this point until we try it. With the command officers, they're on 12-hour shifts. Do we pay out overtime? Yes. But it's inevitable. You're going to have to pay out overtime. It's just inevitable. It's just the nature of the business. However, I do believe with 6 on each platoon, the overtime will, we can keep, tight watch on it. So I think we'll be okay.
Councilwoman Lucido?
So actually I have 2 questions. First of all, so if we had 6 on each platoon, would that mean, would we have, if someone calls in, would we be replacing that 6th one with overtime?
No, because not all 6 will be working at the same time. They'll have different days off. Typically, what our minimum staffing level will be 4. I mean, it just depends how the schedule falls that day. If there's 5 working that day, then if one calls in sick, we won't have to pay overtime. If there's 4 assigned that day, yes, we will have, per the contract, we would have to call in for overtime or past practice.
Okay, so that was my first question. Secondly, I know you said that there was 8 command officers up for possible retirement this year. Is that correct?
Our deputy chief will be eligible to retire. We have 4 lieutenants that will be eligible to retire, 1 sergeant and 2 patrol officers. And everyone has approached me. Out of the 8, I'd say 5 stated that they are leaving for sure next fiscal year. 3 are unsure. It just depends on their family situations and their financial situations.
Right, and I understand your concern about, running obviously at lower staff, even though in 2014, we did run at 36 officers at that time. So, I mean, that was what was budgeted, which would be where we were at now if all 8 did retire. But I understand your issue with the command officer. So I was wondering if there's a succession plan in place to have people move into those command officer positions.
Well, there's a testing process through civil service. We, matter of fact, I requested that the current list be extended for a year. That will save me some time. This way I won't have to post the test. Usually they get 3 months to study. So if I get to extend the list for 1 more year, if somebody does leave, somebody's ready to be trained for that.
Perfect.
So yes, There is a succession plan in place.
I would like to also see the data. I think before we hired all those officers, the crime rate was kind of high until we hired more officers. So even though we probably ran a police force with 36, we had 36 officers, and we didn't even have the neighborhood watch.
You didn't have any specialized divisions.
Nothing.
And that is huge for recruitment And I mean, if the people want the biggest bang for their dollar here in Eastpointe, you have to have specialized divisions so we can look at some of the crime that is going on here. And it gives the opportunity for the employee to grow into a better employee. If you have no opportunity for the employees here, they will go elsewhere because we're competing with other departments throughout the counties.
I'm just thinking about, I would like to see the 12-hour shift work, because I think council is, as well as I am, is worried about this overtime and then hiring more officers, because it's not anything etched in stone that these officers are going to leave. But at the same time, if they do leave, you want to have officers in place. So I'm trying to do, I see both ends, you know. So what do you think about that, Director, about seeing that 12-hour shift work?
See, right now, 12-hour shifts, if you want my opinion, you can't have command on 12s and patrol officers on 8s. To me, I mean, that's unheard of, but that's the way it was in the past. There's no consistency. Every day, the patrolmen have a different supervisor, and each supervisor has a different way of doing business. So it causes a communication breakdown. You want consistency across the board. They're going to come to work, they're working 12s, they have the same supervisors every time they come in. That will help with the department for the efficiency. In respect to hiring, right now, again, we're civil service. I have one candidate on the list that is ready to go. That's all I have left. After that, we're going to have to come up with the list again. It just takes several weeks, you know, to post positions and interview people and get a new list going. But I cannot exhaust the list until this one person either they can withdraw from the list or we hire them when we have a vacancy. And I understand the council's concern about, you know, the possible lost revenues. I fully understand that. Maybe we can put this on hold until we have, you know, some type of more solid information from the state. And if it's good information, then maybe later on, you know, maybe a halfway in the budget, we can come to an agreement. Maybe we can amend the budget and hire the 45th officer. I mean, I'll work with you. But I'm just telling you my dilemma coming up here with possibly 8 people leaving. I just can't tell you what kind of challenge that's going to be for all of us here.
I'd like to see numbers. I'd like to see how much we would save if we change shifts. I would like to see the crime increase or decrease. I like to see numbers and what we were working with as far as, you know, in our city.
We can get you those as time goes on. We are going to keep track of certain things. It's going to take about 6 months before you see anything, if there's any cost savings or if it costs more. The crime, I would expect that the crime there will be a decrease in crime, especially with our specialized units. I will assure you that there will be a decrease in certain crimes with the specialized units.
I'm talking about when we lose officers.
Right.
I want to see what projected number.
If you lose officers, you're going to lose your specialized divisions, and then we're moving full speed ahead. Now we're going to be taking 10 steps backwards. So we'll be back at square one again. If we're forced to lose officers, I have no other choice but to eliminate the special units again, and we're back at square one. And then you're going to have officers working overtime. There's going to be overtime every night. What does that do? That creates fatigue. That increases your sick time, and it reduces the morale of the department. It does impact the morale of the department. It's very difficult to go from call to call to call, you know, the whole shift and work. And sometimes you're working 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a row. It's very difficult.
I would also like to know, I know you mentioned closing some of the units, and we make money off of some of those units, correct?
We don't really gauge it by money. It's mainly by the effectiveness of the unit, the arrests, making an impact in the community. I mean, like if you have an officer in auto theft, we want auto thefts to go down. Mm-hmm. We have officers in narcotics. We want to get rid of all the drug houses in town. We have stacks of complaints on drug houses, but I can't do anything about it until this unit is in place, which it will be. I believe June 14th is the date. We will be in full force, and I'm very excited about that. We have an officer in violent crimes that works in conjunction with the FBI. We have a special response team here. A number of officers are assigned to a team. They'll go into a certain home if there's like a hostage situation. So I don't gauge it by money. I go by the what impact that unit makes on the community.
Right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir, Councilman.
If I
Crowley?
could, yeah, George, I'm just curious. Let me give you a scenario. Next year, of those 8 people, 3 of them say, I'm going to retire March 15th. At what point do you start going out and getting replacements for them? Do you have to wait till after March 15th, or can you do it immediately after they give you a definite date that they're going to retire?
You know, it's nice. That's a great question. A lot of people say they're leaving, but I'm not going to hire anyone until I have a letter signed by them, you know, to seal the deal, because I don't want to go out and hire somebody, then, oh, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
And next thing I know it, you're hired, then you get laid off after the first month. So once they provide me a letter, usually a signed letter by them, we contact the next person on our civil service list, and then we bring them in and they start the orientation process. And our field training officer program it's approximately 17 weeks long.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Councilman DeMonico, so you take off mute. I'm looking at you. Yeah.
You caught me. I did want to talk, last year we talked during budget about these new specialized positions paying for themselves. You know, I guess traffic would be, I mean, personally, I don't want to think about it like that.
Correct.
Of course, like you were saying, George, obviously the police force is out there to keep the community safe. Obviously, if we do write tickets and such, we are going to make revenue. But I guess, you know, what was the situation there, or, you know, do we actually make kind of revenue back from those sorts of positions?
Unfortunately, we haven't been in full force yet, because I still have 4 police officers in training here. There's soon to be, it looks like all 4 will make it. And all 45 officers will be on their own. Right now, they have to ride with somebody. So once that happens in the next 4 weeks, they'll be on their own. Right now, I have an officer assigned to auto theft. We get 60% grant funding for his wages. The drug unit, you know, I worked drug units for years and years. And what I can tell you is if it's a successful unit and if they're arresting all the bad guys, especially drug traffickers, the unit will pay for itself. We're not at that point yet, because the second guy is just going in there right now. The third guy goes in June. The traffic position has not been implemented yet, because we're waiting for these 4 officers to be fully trained. But I will assure you that the traffic officer, he's expected to issue, you know, based on his performance, a certain amount of citations a day. We can't tell him how many to write, because we don't have quotas here, but it's expected of that person to go out there and enforce the traffic laws. And what I can assure you is, and plus I want to cross-train this officer in motor carrier enforcement. So these big trucks you see going up and down the subdivisions, or on Gratiot or on Kelly, this officer will be trained, you know, to stop the vehicle, weigh the vehicle if it's overweight. There's certain fines involved. So there's a lot involved with that. So, but they will pay for themselves, the unit. And, but we're not at that point yet. We're almost there. I need a few more weeks. And once everyone's in place, June's going to be a very good month here at the police department, because everyone will be trained on their own, full staffing. The special units will be moving along, and it just takes a lot of stress off everybody here. So.
Okay, appreciate it. And just one last question, the community promotion part of your budget. I was just curious, because I think, well, I guess let's see, the neighborhood watch part, I think, stood out to me. How much you hit? Well, just altogether, you've got what, 16,700. That seems like
I raised it from last year it was 6,100. I raised it to 16,000, and you know, I talked to a couple council people about having a scholarship program, maybe for a student that maybe we're looking at. We want to recruit to come here to Eastpointe. A lot of police departments are doing that. That helps with the recruitment process. I just threw that out there for 2,500. Enhance the neighborhood watch group. You know, buy people T-shirts, maybe some ID cards. They can start walking the streets and reporting stuff to us. You know, that's going to cost a few dollars. Erecting neighborhood watch signs in the subdivisions, that costs money. I wanted to establish a youth program this year. So just that extra 10,000, I think it's $9,000 some change. I mean, do I need all these things? No. I mean, are they good for the community and for promoting the police department? Absolutely. So it just depends what council's comfortable with, but I certainly can work with you on that. Same thing with our reserve program. I went from $5,000. I think I doubled it because I want our police reserves to start riding bikes in the subdivisions. I want them to ride bikes at community events, school events, and I want them to ride the bikes in the parks. That's a great, great PR tool. They want to do it. They're excited about it. But unfortunately, with the COVID-19, they were supposed to go to, there was, I think, 6 or 7 of them supposed to attend class in May. That was canceled. So we're looking at September for the next class. But of course, there's some startup costs for that too, because you have to buy, you know, certain shorts for the bike and helmets. And we had all the bikes. We have 4 police bikes right now. We fixed them up. So that's just another community thing. So.
All right. Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, council? Oh, Councilwoman.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that before we move forward, we probably should take a vote maybe on the police department, because I think this is the first department we've had some questions on the budget.
Okay, we can start with you. Since you mentioned it.
Well, I mean, I think that I would prefer, you know, making the motion to hold off on hiring the, you know, going forward with the request to hire the additional officer at this time.
Yeah, I'd support that.
I'm going to abstain for right now because I want to see numbers, and because we don't know if we're going to get funding for, you know, from the state and things like that. And then I want to see the, you know, the succession plan. It's a lot of things I want to see before I say no. And, you know, like I said, I see both ends, and I abstain.
So just let me make sure I'm clear on the motion. The money to hire a new officer is not in the budget, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And it would not be in the budget until if and when the council would vote on that, if it's a yes. So that could be 6 months from now. It could be any time. So what we're just voting on now is just saying, well, let's just hold off hiring somebody new.
I think it's better to make it clear so we don't have any discrepancies moving forward with the budget.
Yeah, I think Councilman Curley, I think just in the past, these discussions haven't been super, you know, it might be like one council person for, one against on a particular issue. And then, you know, we get a budget where you might as well flip a coin as to what we end up getting. If we just make it known now, you know, Ms. Doom can take that into consideration then.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure it was clear up here.
Yeah.
All right, we ready for a roll call?
Yes, please.
All right, Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Abstain.
Councilmember Baker.
I'll abstain as well.
So, Director,
Yes, Mayor.
you got some numbers we need to crunch up. And also with the community promotions and stuff like that, I was just looking at, because I know you did 10,000 and then doubled it. I like the part where we have the bike patrol unit. But I know a lot of other communities, we couldn't get some of those bikes sponsored by a company or anything like that.
We've had bikes for years. I just had them looked over, and they're all in great shape. The bikes are, so right now we have bikes. The lighting on the bikes, it's just the gear and the training.
Okay. And going back to the budget again with the increase and the overtime, was that included because of COVID-19 with the hazardous pay and things like that?
No, it was not.
Okay.
That overtime figure is based on averages for the last, I believe I went back 36 months. And what I, you know, again, I sign payroll every other week. I know what it costs. It's probably around $600 to $6,500 a payroll. So that's where I came up with that number. I think that's a fair number. We're almost there this year.
Okay. And the training and things like that, clothing, training, and et cetera, that you feel like it's an extra $5,000?
Mainly all the line items are just about the same. Some have been reduced. There's some just a few dollars over. The one that just catches your eye, and that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, was the overtime budget. That's going to be going up.
Okay. Council, any other questions? For
I have one more.
please.
Just really quick, Mr. Roeb, where are we at right now with overtime this year? I know you mentioned it earlier, but I didn't write it down.
Overtime this year, I believe we're at 200 and, I just ran the numbers here. Around 240,000 so far this year.
Okay.
And that's without the officers working a lot of overtime in the last 4 weeks. The overtime's been
Councilwoman, do you have this book? Councilwoman, you see that? Do you have this book? What page? Well, it's not numbered.
No, I do not have that.
You know, I spent weeks making this book.
That's okay. Yeah.
So that's why I didn't have those numbers. No, I just wanted to so I can write it down in here. But I do appreciate you increasing. We dropped that rate last year to 175. I know from previous budgets.
Yes.
And I agree. I thought it seemed kind of unrealistic also, but I'm happy you clarified that.
Okay. If we left it at that, we're just gonna have to do a budget amendment. I can tell you right now. I just hate to do that. The 338 is a very realistic number.
You don't have it in front of you, Councilwoman, but the last year's overtime was 427,350.
No, I have that. That's in our budget.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just want
I have that.
Book. Okay. Anything else? Anyone want to speak on this? Okay, thank you, Director. Good job.
Welcome.
Again. And we're gonna go to fire, or that's all combined, or we're gonna go back one by one? Because I know
I could do fire next.
Okay.
The fire is easy.
Okay.
The fire guys are easy.
Nick is here.
Because everybody likes fire.
He's hearing everything you say, George.
In a nutshell, Council, if you look at all the line items, the fire department's going to probably stay the same in every line item. And there's several line items that are going to be significantly reduced. Let's start with the staffing. That's the biggest cost. Right now, we have 23 budgeted positions. We have 3 platoons. There's 7 firefighters assigned to each platoon. There's a fire marshal and there's a deputy fire chief. So that's 23, plus I count as a half a person. The staffing levels for next fiscal year will remain the same. That's my request, to remain the same. Overtime, I think I increased that just by a few $1,000s, not much. They're doing a great job this year, the fire department. They're right within the budget for overtime. We want to continue building improvements. We're doing very well. We're not asking for that much money. I think we cut it just about in half from this budget. I think the only capital needs in the department, we're going to talk more about this in a few seconds, is We need another, we need a 800 megahertz radio base station, and the ladder truck. I made a separate PowerPoint just on the ladder truck because I know that's going to be a big issue. But those are the greatest needs. Everything else everything's going according to plan. They have all updated equipment there. They're getting new bunker gear in July, all new hose they have. The tools they have are all newer tools. We just paid a lot of money for the Jaws of Life 2 sets. So overall, the fire department is in great shape. We just have to make a few renovations to the building to keep it, up to par. And it's just the apparatus that we have an issue with. And unfortunately, it's the most expensive thing in the department, especially, a new ladder truck. It's an aging truck, and but we'll get into that later. But if you have any questions about the fire department budget right now, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Let's start with the ladder truck.
I thought that was gonna be last.
No, I want that now. That's the most expensive. I want that to be first.
Well, I'm good at ladder trucks, and I'll tell you what, the picture that you see for the presentation under the fire truck, that's what a platform truck looks like. That's what we have. I've been involved in speccing out a truck in my previous job. I'm pretty knowledgeable about how this truck operates. You may ask, why do you need a ladder truck? Well, that platform in itself it provides the firefighters with basically with a safe environment to fight fires. It's great for rescue purposes. I don't know, it's very difficult to climb a ladder. You don't have a bucket on it and put somebody over your shoulder and drag them down, especially if you have multiple victims. It's great for ventilation. You can lift the firefighter up. They can place them on the roof. They can cut the roof. And the platform truck has more gallons per minute flow, up to 2,000, maybe sometimes even greater than 2,000 gallons per minute. But that's the truck that we have now. We want to stick with the same plan. It is very expensive. The truck we have now is, it's a 1999. It has, we've invested, I think up to date, about $150,000 into the truck right now. Matter of fact, right now, the truck is out of service. It's in Romeo being repaired, another $5,000. We'll be investing in it. We're putting good money into it's a very bad investment. NFPA says the truck should go out of service after 25 years. I think it's time. The truck it's tired. It gets a lot of use, but it's time. Unfortunately, it is very expensive. And I put a finance plan in there based on the assumption that we have an interest rate at 4%. I put different amount of monies we can put down, just to give you just a general idea what it would cost. I've had 2 formal appraisals, myself and the deputy fire chief, and he can jump in at any time. The truck is worth it could be anywhere from $30,000 to maybe $80,000 we can get from it. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's all we're going to get because the truck is old. But once we get, we get a nice, if we sell the truck, we can use that as a down payment. The new truck will come with ladders. A lot of the smaller equipment we'll have to pull from the old truck. We'll put it on the new truck. But it's an investment you're going to make that's going to last anywhere from 20 to 25 years. And you can, it's just like buying a house. You're not going to pay cash for the house. At once you spread the payments, it helps, to ease. That's a big number, but it's something that we need. Especially, we have some buildings in town here that are multiple stories. But I can't tell you enough, just having that bucket on the truck, the added safety it has for firefighters and for suppression and for rescuing fire victims. But here's the thing, if we do, let's say council does approve the purchase of a new truck, it's going to take minimum of 15 months to build a new one. Now with the COVID-19, I would assume that's going to hold things back. You're talking, we may not have a truck here for 18 to 24 months. So it's going to take probably a year and a half to have it here. So in the meantime, we'll have to have the same truck. We're going to probably keep investing in repairs. That's just how it goes. But if we do hold off, keep in mind that the truck price can go up anywhere from 3 to maybe 6, 7% a year. And
And
in the meantime, you're going to keep paying for repairs.
just to speed this up, I think, I don't know, I'm not talking for everyone, but I'm thinking everybody's on board to buy one. I think we just have some additional questions. I mean, of course we need to, and I think you had, go ahead, Councilwoman Lucido.
I was just going to say, I do agree. I do think we need to purchase one. We knew going back 3 years ago that this was going to be something we were going to be looking at, so.
I was just wondering then, looking at while you're talking, so if just budgeting purposes, I guess just in general, and I know I've said it's not at all the truck here that is our 1.4 million deficit. You know, last year, like I was saying, I think at our last council meeting, our capital budget's about 600,000 higher than last year. So at most, you can blame the truck that much if we're comparing to last year. But seeing that it's taking, just for budgeting purposes, if it takes 15 months to build, we're not even going to end up paying that whole amount this year. I guess this is more a Blum and Doom question. Or also, I saw that you did put the loan amounts. I'm thinking, I don't know if this is just me, but why would we not just pay for it as the bills come in? I'm assuming they want a down payment and they want a second payment once it's done. Why would we not just pay for it if we have $10-12 million in the rainy day fund, so that we're not spending any money on interest?
Yeah, there has been no conversation about financing this particular vehicle. I personally would be opposed to taking out a loan at 4% when I'm sitting on cash earning me less than 1% right now. I'd rather pay the cash and be done with it and not have a loan in place. If you recall, at the end of fiscal year 19, we committed $1,004,000 for capital. This year, we're spending about $700,000 of that. So we're going to have about $311,000 left in committed capital expenditure already, just sitting there waiting to make a down payment or whatever. And then additionally, we have known this is coming. We've been planning on it administration's been planning on it for 5 years. And so my expectation is we would just pay it. I assume there's like progress payments or something as the truck gets built. But from a finance perspective, I'd rather just pay the thing and be done with it.
And then I think the other question was just, so we budgeted just 1.25 million. Is there, I guess, can we talk, is there, like, how tall does the truck go, and do we need it as tall? I mean, I guess I just don't know the answer to this at all. Is there a chance to get a slightly cheaper truck? I'm just looking at this from the, we're 1.4 million deficit with the current budget. And then we did talk about that we will make some money back by being able to sell the old one, right? I guess I assume we'd sell it once we're in possession of the new truck.
Yes.
But I guess that wouldn't be till next fiscal year.
Correct.
Anyway, then the fiscal year after, I should say.
I've had many conversations with their deputy fire chief. Are you still on there, Nick?
Yes, sir.
You can probably talk about the height of the truck. And one thing I do want you to understand that we're in automatic aid agreements with the city of St. Clair Shores and Roseville. In the event we have a fire, whether it's a residential fire or a commercial fire, depending where it is, one of those, or sometimes both cities, they will respond to assist us. Now, Roseville, they do not have a bucket truck, and either does St. Clair Shores. They both have ladder trucks. That's what they prefer. So we wouldn't have a bucket truck. So if we got a ladder truck, then all three communities wouldn't have a ladder truck. But it fits our needs. And then, Nick, you can add a little bit more what the reasoning why we talked about a 100-foot ladder.
Right. So thank you very much, by the way, tonight for considering this, everybody. Harvey, you probably remember you were part of that decision back in 1997 for the truck that we have here. So it is a great question. A 100-foot aerial ladder. And really, it's as simple as this. The height of Chester Berry, if you stand at the wall looking up, is 72 feet to the very top. And where you have to park the apparatus, you have to take into account the potential of, collapse zone, unfortunately. And that's where that 100-foot comes from. And it gives you the ability to maneuver around and reach every single one of those 5th-story windows from the parking lot. And so that's really the short answer of how we got to 100 feet 22 years ago. So it is our preference that it is a bucket truck. And Cardi, I think you could probably give some testimony to that, because I think if I remember right, it's so much safer with the bucket. And I can tell you personally, I've actually effected a rescue off the bucket, and it is so much safer for the firefighter and the person that's being rescued to be brought into a bucket and then safely down to the ground. And it's really as simple as that. So what we did. I'm sorry. What we did is we just took the truck that we have. I mean, they did a wonderful job 22 years ago outlining the needs. And what we did is we just took the truck that we have out there, and we just wanted a idea of the cost with the Sutphen brand and everything in 2020 terms. So there's 65 different safety upgrades through the years, and some of that drives the cost. But ultimately, for what we're asking for with a bucket on it, that the price tag at one point, it's actually under 1.2, actually isn't horrible. Although it does sound like a lot of money, and it is. But going forward, it just grows. And the director kind of already touched on it, but really, when you break down the maintenance costs with the ladder truck we have now, it's about $4,000 a month worth of maintenance costs. And it's out in Romeo now getting some work done to it. That'll probably be just, I don't know, about $4,500 worth of repairs. And it's just, to me, it's like a broken record. I feel like it's going out to Romeo and getting something else done. And it's just, I guess in simple terms, just reached the end of its useful life. And our hope is to get another good year out of it and then replace it with a new one.
If I may, Madam Mayor, back in when they were considering buying this ladder truck, I was on the council, and somebody said at Chesterberry Manor, they said, Harvey, why would we need such a big truck? I said, well, you're on the top floor, all right? And the fire truck comes and there's a fire there and there's all kinds of cars parked in the parking lot. They can't go straight up, so they can bring the, you can see my hand, they can bring up the 100-foot ladder like this. The building's here, and the fire truck's way over here. And that's one of the great reasons why a 100-foot bucket truck was great. So, yeah.
Yeah,
and they said, oh, okay, Mayor, that's great. We'll do that, you know.
Now,
go ahead, Cardi.
I was going to say it was Nick. I was just disappointed. He said I'd be able to see the Ren Sen, but it was foggy that day.
Tomorrow.
They took you up there too, did they, Cardi?
Yes.
To the top? Yeah, I got up there. I panicked, but they kept one hand on my waist and one hand on my mouth, so I couldn't scream.
Picture going up there on a ladder, not using the bucket. It's night and day.
Yeah.
Safety.
Wow. Any other questions, council, on the fire budget?
Nope.
No.
No. What about Mr. Baker? I want to leave him out. If he doesn't respond, that means no too.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm just listening. You guys
okay.
I'm good. Yeah.
Have the artwork in the background. We see you out there.
Oh yeah.
What about animal control director?
Mayor, animal control is, I don't think we're asking for anything except a new vehicle. The vehicle that we have, I believe it's 10 years old.
Okay.
It's rusted out. We just want a Ford Explorer. That's all that the animal control officer is asking for. We'll go through enterprise lease. I would imagine the lease would probably be about $550 a month, but he's well under budget this fiscal year, and he's coming up with some exciting programs and donations. And we're doing, the animal control division is going very well. That's the only request I have, that we replace the aging vehicle that we have. That's it.
Now, those cars that we had in the capital improvement plan that we did with Enterprise, his car wasn't included as one of the cars?
That's correct. We elected to do it this budget. But it's the truck, it's old, it's in constant repair. It's time to replace. I want to say it's 10 years old.
Okay.
And we want the Explorer, that's it. We don't need a truck, he just wants an Explorer.
I don't mind having a car. It's just we don't know what type of funding is coming in. It's kind of, up and down to approve, and we don't know the same money that people are asking for is going to be as available. Council, had anything on this?
And keep in mind, Mayor, the cost that we are paying the county we have a contract with the county for animal control services. That's been cut right in half. That in itself will probably pay for the car because of the things that he's doing and the groups he's networked with. We're saving a lot of money on that end.
Okay, that makes the decision even better. When I know what type of revenue is coming in to offset the cost of money that we don't know for sure that's coming in. Anybody else want to talk on that? Seeing none, let's go to drug forfeiture.
No,
Councilman Crowley.
Just to say that I like that answer about getting half of it, but the vehicle is going to fall apart, so we need something new so they can do the job. And that whole thing has got we got national attention on that department.
Oh yes.
Did we not?
Yes, we have.
So yeah, I think we should go ahead with that. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I think the truck's actually closer to 20 years old. We moved a box from one vehicle to a new one. The box might be 10 years old, but the chassis itself, I think, is closer to 20.
It may be.
Wow.
It's old and busted.
Yes,
Wow.
Like the Flintstone mobile.
Oh, wow. Drug forfeiture, please.
Well, Mayor, in respect to drug forfeiture, I mean, it's kind of a guessing game, but next fiscal year, I'll have a better insight how this unit's going to work out. I mean, now that we'll be in full force in June, so there's some requests that I made in here for equipment. Basically, I threw in some overtime. We didn't have overtime in the last budget, but some of the overtime, by the officers, we can take out of forfeiture. Operating supplies, I think $11,500 for raid gear and some surveillance equipment. But other than that, I think everything, if you look at it, it's pretty reasonable. This will definitely change the next fiscal year following this one, once I can gauge what kind of activity is going on in this unit. So.
Well, that unit usually pays for itself, correct? A little bit?
That is correct. It typically will do, depending on who's down there and who's pushing them. But yes, the drug forfeiture laws have changed somewhat, but there's still monies out there. But I think it's reasonable. The numbers. There's nothing that really stands out.
Sounds good. Council, any other questions, concerns on any of these 4 items under police for the director or the fire chief or?
No.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any more questions for the chief, but I was going to ask if we could take like a 10 or 15 minute break before we go on to the next item.
Yes, great idea.
Thank you.
We are going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back. What time is it? So it can come back at a good time.
Almost 7 o'clock.
Okay, see you soon.
That's 7:10.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, George.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Was everybody there today? Oh.
Over here. I don't know where to put this at.
Hey, Rich, did you
Yes,
get to
Randy.
see, Blue Angels today?
We saw them, yeah. Bob and I walked out into the parking lot, and it was awesome seeing them fly by. They were going along the shoreline on Lake St. Clair.
We went out by the Shamrocks, and we got to see them kind of come up from sort of city airport out towards Warren, and they flew by just south of here.
I heard them when they were going over Warren. We could hear them in the distance. And then they came from out of the north.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the significance? What's this? I know they were flying in that formation, but what was the significance of the one jet flying kind of outside the group?
It was filming.
Oh, gotcha.
So they were recording the event, and it was this basically a trailing jet doing the video.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we had gone after they passed over kind of to our southwest. We ran to the back and waited around, and we could see them going across the shoreline, but they were a little too far away to get a decent picture.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we got a good view of them.
Yeah. It's always fun to see those. I love those air shows.
Yeah, I could watch them all day long. They're amazing.
Yep. Yeah, when they do the one out at Selfridge, a lot of the flight patterns, they turn around right over our house to head back.
Okay.
And here they had the stealth bomber.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
It was low and slow, and it was like, holy crap! You're looking up. It was like you could touch the thing.
Yeah.
So cool.
Very. Yeah, my aunt lives she lives in Harrison Township on the Clinton River, which is basically the approach for one of the runways at Selfridge. And I tell you, when they're coming in, you can see the pilots. They're looking down at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Yep. That is always good stuff.
Yeah, especially in these times, it's nice to see something like that just to get everyone's mind away from the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm hungry. What are you eating?
I have a turkey sandwich.
Oh.
That's what I had for dinner too, was a turkey sandwich.
Oh.
I've got pretzels.
I got coffee now, so I'm good.
Well, I'm going to have a big bowl of ice cream when we get done.
Oh.
I just don't want to eat in front of you guys because then I'd have to share, and I don't want to share.
I'll take care of that problem for you.
No, there you go. Oh. It was a beautiful day for walking, but it was a little windy, but it was nice.
Whenever everybody gets ready, we can start. Got a couple more minutes. Mr. Baker, you're not tired? You had a long day. You was out with gleaners all day, passing out food and different things, and now you're here at the budget. Busy day for you. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, no problem, no problem. No, I'm good. I just, I got factory man hours, so I'm up early, I'm up late, so it doesn't matter. I'm pretty good, so yeah. It's good to see you guys come by and support bringing the masks, and you had Councilman Curley just missed you.
Oh man.
As you took off, he had pulled up, and just good to have the support out there. People spreading the word, and just offering just good words to people. That's what people need right now.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. However anybody can help, I appreciate it, because we're usually pretty good volunteer-wise. But there's always something that can be done, and so it was good. I was glad that you were able to provide some masks, and that was cool. So thank you.
You know what? I got sent those masks for mayors. So I don't know what if all the mayors got those masks in Michigan or how that works. But I was just happy. I'm like, okay, that really works to continuously pass out masks. I think we're gonna be wearing those for the rest of the year and a little bit of next year. So those masks that were given should last for the next couple, meetups. So
yeah, that's awesome. This is a time where you have a lot of people that are in predicaments where people aren't making the money that they may normally make. Some people doing a little better, some are not. But I think anytime you can help somebody, no matter what, it doesn't, especially in a situation like this, that's just awesome. So I've been in a position to be able to help in different ways. So that's what I try to do. And, just try to do for someone what I would hope someone would do for me if that need was present. So
you're definitely doing it. So
but
thank
that's
you
it.
so much. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
What time is it? Mr. DeMonico, is it Mr. DeMonico back? I think that's the only person.
I'm here.
He's here.
You're at the council chambers. What are you doing in front of the building? We need you
That's a nice warm day out here.
What are you doing in front of the building? No, okay, well, we're gonna start it back up and you ended at police, fire, animal control, and drug forfeiture. Good job, director. They have already been excused. They gave the option if they want to stay, if they wanted to. We're gonna go to item E, roads, rubbish, water, sewage, and motor pool. Ms. Doom, you can direct us to those directors and talk about the roads, and Mr. Blum can talk about the financing and state funding and things like that for our roads. Ms. Doom?
Mr. Abraham, if you would go ahead and start with roads and then move right on through the agenda to rubbish, water, sewer, and motor pool, please. Can you hear me?
You're muted there.
There you go.
Do you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Thank you, Madam. Good evening, Madam Mayor, respected council. I am Jose Abraham, Director of Department of Public Works and Service. I have provided a handout that shows our organization chart, staffing level, a brief description of our operations, and a list of major items that we have requested. Hope you have a copy of that. We do not have a specific budget as all expenses are charged to the area where work is being performed. We charge hardly anything to general fund unless we are asked to provide certain services. Almost all our operations are funded from either special revenue funds, enterprise funds, or from internal service fund. And it is true with all the one-time items or the major items that we have requested. None of those items are funded from general fund. The major initiatives that we have taken in the current fiscal year, and then also that what we are planning to do are given below. We flushed all 913 fire hydrants in the city, probably the first time after 18 years citywide. We swept all streets 3 times. We installed the lane marking on all major streets after a long time, and also around schools, and installed the intersection markings. We received approval of 3 federal grants for a total of $1,737,000 to modernize all traffic signals in the city. We are in the process of installing a second PRV. PRV stands for pressure reducing valve at 8 Mile and Kelly as an alternate in case the only other PRV goes bad. Actually, the work started last week and then it is halfway done. Two of the major streets that were in poor condition are under construction now, with a total investment of $3.4 million, of which about $2.4 million is from federal funds. Replace the water main on Donald Avenue from Topher to Stevens. We are planning to replace 80 lead service lines this year. We are planning to inspect and clean all 3,703 catch basins in the city, I believe, which was never done in the city. On behalf of the entire DPW team, I express our sincere thanks and appreciation to our mayor, all council members, our new city manager, and all other city employees for their guidance and support. I take this opportunity to express my heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Darren Palucci, the field supervisor, Ms. Carol Apley, the admin supervisor, and to each and every member of the DPW family for their dedication and hard work. Thank you. May God bless you all. I will answer any questions if you have.
Thank you so much. You have done an amazing job the time you've been here. I just want to say that out loud. If I haven't said it before, probably have. I know we were talking about earlier, it was this year, it was earlier this year, we were talking about the reconstruction of the streets, or what's the other word you call it?
Resurfacing, ma'am. Resurfacing.
I'm sorry?
Resurfacing.
Resurfacing. Thank
Yes.
you. Resurfacing or the reconstruction. Now tell me what happened with those plans.
I presented that proposal twice to the city council.
Okay.
The second time when I presented, council person Lucido asked whether we received a report from our engineering firm AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, Ms. Elke Doom advised AEW to present a report, which he since then submitted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the essence of that report says to resurface 1 mile of residential street with an estimated 30% base repair, AEW estimated that at $2,550,000, which I have never heard of. As I said at the council chambers when I presented the proposal, I said, in my previous job, I planned, coordinated, and organized and funded 1,600 miles of streets. So street resurfacing or reconstruction is not new to me. I have been doing that about 29 years. Though I am not an engineer, I have adequate experience to distinguish between what is resurfacing, what is reconstruction, what is a good candidate for resurfacing, and then also I can assess what is a reasonable cost.
Mm-hmm.
I have never in my life heard about $2,550,000 to resurface 1 mile of residential street. Whereas my proposal was at the most around $800,000. Now, I really feel sorry, ma'am, that we are leaving those streets, approximately 7 miles of residential streets in very, very pathetic and poor condition with no decision being made so far. So since I have not heard anything since I made the proposal from the council,
Mm-hmm.
I have not factored anything in my budget to whether to resurface or to reconstruct. Let me add one more thing.
Okay.
If the council is going for reconstruction, which I agree that it is a long-term solution, it may take probably another 20 or 30 years to reconstruct those 7 miles of residential streets. I don't know whether those residents or whether those houses will survive 20 or 30 years. Whereas if we decide to resurface at approximately $800,000, $900,000 a mile, at least we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That means we may be able to do something within the next 5-6 years. We will be able to address some of the streets within the next 5 to 6 years.
Now, thank you for that. Now, my question to you is, none of those streets are in this capital improvement plan. You guys, excuse me, this light is not working. Oh, Lord. Okay. Sorry about that. I want you guys to see me and I can, Now, Mr. Director, now, none of those streets that we talked about the resurfacing and reconstruction was in this proposal, correct?
No, ma'am.
So those streets would not be done because we haven't came up with a decision.
Because I have not heard a decision from the council, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh my.
And there is no way that I could put a balanced budget and propose to reconstruct these streets. Because to reconstruct 1 mile of residential street, it could cost us approximately $2.6 million.
Well, saying that, just say if we wanted to resurface, let's just say that, because at this point, we don't even know what kind of funding is coming in, but that was already budgeted we had enough money to resurface, correct?
No, ma'am, we have not budgeted money for resurfacing either, but we have little leeway in the local street fund. Based on the budget I submitted, there is some money left in the local street fund. So we with the blessing, or Randy also has to look into that one. The analysis says that we have some money left in the local street fund, that is the residential or local street fund, to pave at least a mile of street going forward every year. We may be able to do that.
I was just wondering why that proposal wasn't put into this, because if those streets are so bad, I would think going forward, that would be something we'd be trying to work on for next year. And since it's not in there, then what are we going to do? If we're not going to get those streets fixed, council, what's the PACER rating if we don't get those streets fixed or do anything to it, Director?
These streets are in very, very poor condition, ma'am. Probably if you take a PACER rating for these local streets, of course, we have not done a PACER rating, but then if you rate these streets, it is -10, or it is in that worst shape. That means one is supposedly the worst, but then these are below minus.
Now, some of the stuff in this capital improvement plan, are they as bad as the streets that we are talking about? Do you think those are should be on the top of the list to do, or do we need to rearrange something to get that done? I want to know what's most important, what's least important. You tell me.
The projects that I have outlined, that is the list of major items I have listed in the handout I have given you, ma'am. Those are major streets. Those are not residential streets. These are major streets. For example, Topher. Topher is a major street, and we are getting 80% federal funding to reconstruct that street. So we are using only 20% Act 51 funds for that. And then 9 Mile, the next one is 9 Mile. 9 Mile is also a major street. We are getting federal funds, 80% of the construction cost to reconstruct that street. So we are talking about the residential streets. The residential streets, we cannot, or we are not eligible for federal funding, except when now and then we get small funding from CDBG, but that is very little. It is not enough even to pave 1 mile of residential street. So to answer your question, no, that is not in the capital budget.
It should be though.
Ma'am, if the council agrees to do that one, yes.
Mr. DeMonico.
Sure. If I could just jump in. So yeah, of course, we had the conversation about reconstructing versus resurfacing, and seemed to me and I believe we voted on this, that resurfacing was not the option because we'd need to revisit these streets in 10 years, 15 years, like a somewhat short term in terms of roads, and we'd rather reconstruct. And that's where we were looking at Mr. Blum's presentation of how can we actually raise the funds, because as Mr. Abraham said, it would take a very long time to reconstruct all the roads at the current rate of funding that we receive. But if we were able to do those pacer 2s and 3s, and that's what we're talking about, the 2s and 3s, who knows if they, once you're at a 2 or a 3, changing to a lower pacer rating, I don't know how quickly that occurs, but really a 2 or 3, I mean, that we need to hit that street as quickly as possible. But also, if from what I recall, I thought we voted on this, we didn't want to just visit these and resurface them so that in 10 years, whoever's on city council in 10 years would then again have to look at these same roads that are 2s and 3s, because then we'd have other 2s and 3s by that point. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully our maintenance program, that's the $700,000 in concrete street repair, hopefully that keeps the 4s and higher at those rates. But we were hoping, and now I'm sure we're probably going to have to reconsider, we were hoping to maybe do, I thought the best idea from Mr. Blum's was to do a small millage to fix those 2s and 3s, and then hopefully you can move forward with a maintenance program that would prevent 2s and 3s from happening again. Now that we've got coronavirus, we're probably going to have a whole different strategy now, but that's essentially where I thought we were at.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, I remember the same thing as Mr. DeMonico said. I do believe we did vote, if I remember correctly, I think it was probably back in maybe November or December about this. It may have been later than that. But yeah, I think that, and another thing is too, like the streets that are being resurfaced, we have to look at the fact that we were just to resurface them. If there's any like lead service lines underneath any of those houses, those would have to be replaced too. So therefore we're tearing out the whole street. Ooh, that's gonna have to be reconstruction. I'd hate to resurface a street that even had one lead service line when we're gonna have to be transferring them all over over the next 10 years anyways.
I don't remember approving that. I thought we were still talking about it. If you guys, you said, Councilwoman, that we approved that already, or
I don't think we approved an idea moving forward. I think we just voted on not doing the reconstruction, or not doing the resurfacing. We voted on not doing resurfacing.
Okay. I guess my next question is, if it's that bad and the pacer rating is low, when are we gonna probably gonna need to come revisit this, because it needs to be done. So I'm just, Ms. Doom, since you're right there.
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Yes, there is a little bit of question. Now, I'd like to propose something. We know that Mr. Abraham has been working on roads for many years, and he understands the costs. And there's quite a difference between AEW's projection on resurfacing a road that he has reviewed and estimated at a much lower cost. I would like to recommend that we allow Mr. Abraham to resurface one of the roads, the one he believes is the best candidate for resurfacing, with the funds that we have in our account right now. And then we will know, is it really $2.5 million, or is it $400,000 to $800,000? And I think if we use one as a test case with the existing funds that we have, we'll have a better idea where to go forward, whether some of the roads are, would be good for resurfacing for 10 to 15 years. As you know, Mayor, you've gotten the emails, I have. People are begging for their roads to be repaired.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes, reconstruction is absolutely the best way all the time, but I can't imagine people funding a millage at this point. We've got too many people who are hurting right now financially from this virus. It's going to take a while for people to recover. But I would really like to put it to the test myself and allow Mr. Abraham to proceed, and then we will know what resurfacing costs. And it won't hurt us to do one road. And we'll know then if his figures are off, and they are, you know, just about as much as reconstructing, we know to stop there and continue with reconstruction. But you're right at the same time, Ms. Lucido, that we don't want to resurface a road that has to be torn back out for water lines. So, Mr. Abraham, if you could jump in and let us know if there is a road that you have identified. I know you identified a few of them, but is there one that does not need any water line replacements that you feel is a good road to resurface at this time?
The answer is yes, ma'am. There are several. Usually on residential streets, the water main is under the sidewalk or on the grassy area, we call the BAM area.
Okay.
Very rarely it is under the street right of way. So I can look at some of the west streets and then let you and the council know where the water main is, whether it is under the sidewalk or on the grassy area or under the street. And
Okay.
then if there are, so we have about 6 to 7 miles of residential streets that are in very poor condition. And then I can assess where the water main is and then provide you a report on that.
Okay.
And then we can pick the one where we do not have water main under the roadway right of way.
I was just going to jump in with I I looked in our minutes for, it was January 21st meeting. That I motioned and Councilwoman Lucido seconded to ask city administration to come up with alternative funding sources for reconstructing the 2s and 3s in the PACER report, and an option if we could, if we could do one set of numbers for the 2s and 3s and then add the 4s as a separate option. And all 5 of us voted in favor of that on January 21st. I think that's where we left it off essentially.
Randy, I'll have Randy jump in at this point, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you pick a road, do the specs, put it out for bid, the bid comes in, and it's the equivalent of $2.5 million a mile. You just don't award the bid, and you stop the resurfacing. If a bid comes back and it's the equivalent of $800,000 a mile, then you proceed. So it doesn't hurt to put it out for bid, see what comes back, and then make a decision based on that. Then you'll get a good indicator of what it's really going to cost.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was planning to do.
Yeah, I like that. I think the council meeting that Councilman DeMonico put up, I think I had agreed to the resurfacing, but also we all agreed to how we're going to fund it. And I think a millage wasn't something, well, it was probably talked about, but as of right now with the pandemic, I don't think that's probably been something we should speak about right now. But if you want, are we going to add this possibly to, well, do we add this now a street, or how will we do this, Ms. Doom, as far as?
Well, I have to ask Randy to step in at this point. Randy, if we were to go out for bid and a street resurfaced at a price that we feel is adequate, that council would feel adequate, how does this going to impact the budget as far as repairs for the year? Or does Joe's have a little, or is there a little extra in another pot that Joe's could repair streets and potentially have one resurfaced, depending on cost?
The current budget for local streets actually has a $600,000 surplus for the year.
Okay.
So we can proceed with an additional project with the caveat that we still don't know the full impact of COVID. I did receive the March Act 51 money yesterday, and year over year compared to March of last year, it is down about 10%. But that's also not a full month of people doing Zoom. So we're going to see more as the months roll along of what the real impact is going to be. So while, and we do have fund balance, that's the other thing. So even if the revenue drops, we would still have, we could just use fund balance to do another project. So,
okay.
And again, we don't have to award it when it comes in. So.
I guess in general, I'm not a huge fan of going out to bid and with the idea of maybe not awarding as one of our strategies. I know obviously, like, I guess if we do that, I would want to have, you know, we should have an idea in mind if we're going to award, you know, around 800,000 or around 2 million or whatever this number needs to be for this project, because
right.
I don't want, I mean, these people are going to stop bidding on our projects too. I think if they keep bidding on them and then we don't award to anybody, you know, I don't want that to be the situation. I don't think it's fair for the companies bidding.
So you saying Mr. DeMonico put a price range out there that we're looking around and then go out for bid or something?
Well, I mean, usually AEW will estimate. So, and I guess to back up it, so is it possibly the difference, Mr. Abraham? I know, so like, obviously in Detroit, you were doing a very, very large amount of street work. Can Detroit do it at just such a lower rate because you're, you know, say you're doing 100 miles a year, where Eastpointe's doing 1 mile a year? Is that maybe where we're coming up with this discrepancy? Because I believe AEW is just basing it off of previous projects because they've been our engineer for a long time. I don't know if maybe that's where the discrepancy is. Hey, maybe if we can work with Detroit and they just add a mile on and we get it at that rate, that's fine. But maybe that's where the discrepancy is. I don't know if that makes sense.
Definitely that makes a difference. Economy of scale. You know, when I was in Detroit, we were awarding 100 to 150 miles of streets a year. Yeah. Out of that, about 50 miles, 60 miles were residential streets. So evidently that makes a difference. But then when I was at Detroit, we were paying an average, let's say back in 2010, 2012, we were paying average $450,000 to $500,000 a mile. And then it increased a little bit because the asphalt price went up dramatically. During that time, let's say 2015, we were paying $50 to $60 a ton of asphalt, whereas in 2017 or 2018, it went all the way to $90 a ton. So the price went up, and that's the reason why, one reason, I increased the price from 500,000 to 800,000 to be on the safer side. Secondly, I factored the economy of scale. There is some cushion again from 500,000 to 800,000. I provided some cushion, but I cannot assure you. I can assure you 100% that if we let only 1 mile of street, councilman, whether it will come at 800,000 or 700,000 or 1 million, I cannot guarantee that. But then my plan was just like Randy proposed. If it is beyond our means, you know, of course, we don't have to award. We are not doing that repeatedly to answer your concern. We are not in the business of simply taking bids and then not to award. We are not doing that. So once in a while, if financial position force us to do that one, I don't think there is anything ethically wrong with that, because we are not trying to default the contractors. It is our position. It is our financial condition that is forcing us to do. So that is what, you know, then I would like to do. But again, I cannot guarantee that, you know, it could be probably 800,000. Whereas, to be frank, I will bet my job, councilman, that it will not cost $2.5 million to resurface 1 mile of street.
Don't bet your job now. We like you, look. But I get what you guys are saying, because in our last bidding, we were getting that door fix on the on City Hall, and it was above our price range, and we had to stop, you know, paying that cost. So it's not that we're in the business of, you know, playing games with people in the bidding process, but if it's over what we expected to pay, then I think that's fair to say that's the reason we didn't choose that bid. So so what's the next step in you know, going forward with this process, Mr. Blum?
Well, we can either add additional money into the budget right now for another project, or we just wait till we get a project put in place, get the bid back, and when the bid's awarded, do a budget amendment. Either one works.
Okay, council?
Yes, I'd rather not resurface. I'd rather reconstruct. I know obviously it's more money, but that's.
Mr. Monaco. Yeah, I believe the part of AEW's, if I remember correctly, and I don't have the report in front of me, the reason why they bid it so high is because they expected the underlying area to be in such terrible condition that it would have to be replaced before you could even resurface it. It was the repairs to the under part because the roads are so old. I think that's why their rates were so high on at 2.5 million per mile.
And they had based that on a project they did, I believe it was on Veronica, where we had to replace 30% of the underlying concrete, as well as we did catch basin repairs and curb replacement. And that's what was driving the cost of the project. And that was their basis then for their projection. So it just depends on, once you mill it off, what do you find underneath?
Yeah.
Right. So I have one more quick question too before we move forward. Would we have to have engineering done before we went ahead with the resurfacing, or would we just go in and resurface?
It is a simple process, ma'am. To give you a good accounting or a detailed answer, if we proceed with the reconstruction, it is a detailed plan. It will cost us 5 to 6% of the construction cost to come up with a design for a reconstruction. Whereas resurfacing, it is a very simple process. It doesn't involve a detailed construction drawing preparation. It is basically, we have done resurfacing in the past in the city, as Randy said earlier. So they have to take some survey and then identify the quantities and then advertise for bids. So it is a very simple and fast process and less expensive process. Now, well, let me add one more thing, ma'am. Earlier, Councilman DeMonico said about 10 to 15 years. 10 to 15 years is not a hard and fast rule. Whereas if a residential street usually can last 20 to 25 years. Some of the streets we have in the city that are that were resurfaced in the past, it could be 25, 30 years now. So 10 to 15 years, it is very unlikely. Very reasonably, we can get 20 years, sometimes even more. Because the truck traffic is very, very minimal, and the overall traffic is also very, very minimal. That's why the big difference between the residential street and a major street. So we reasonably can expect 20 years of life for a resurfaced, well resurfaced street. And reconstruct, of course, it could be, well over 25, 30 years. But the cost is 3 times.
If you don't mind, I have one more question. Also, when there's a water main break on an asphalt resurfaced street compared to a concrete street, is there a difference in cost to repairing that water main break?
Big difference, ma'am. If it is a reconstructed street with a cement, we have to dig the whole thing out, and then we have to reconstruct that street back with the cement. That of course costs a lot of money. Whereas resurfacing, we have to put only asphalt on top, and then that is very less costly. But again, as I said earlier, very, very unlike, I do not know unless I do an analysis. Usually we have the water main on the grassy area, that is the BAM area, or under the sidewalk, like on Donald Street. For example, it was on the grassy area or on the BAM area. It was not under the street. So there could be candidates where the water main is under the street, but I do not know, ma'am, until I look at each and every street that are potential candidates for resurfacing.
Okay, so are we agreeing to either put it in the budget, or because we can always amend it as well too, correct, Mr. Blum? while he's getting those specs and all that information together. Just bring it back to the table pretty much.
Correct. Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter which way we do it. We can add 800,000 tonight. We can just wait for the project to come back and add it at that point.
I think it seems like council has made up their decision already to see the information. We would like to see the information first, and before we move that money. I don't, council, what do you think about that? I know Mr. Monaco sounded like he didn't, he wanted to wait a little bit on reconstruction. I think we all would like reconstruction, but at this time, we would have to do a millage, which is not, we're not going to do that. And then we want to see our streets not go to a lower pace rate. So we have to do something. And if we can test it out and look at the pricing, it'll have us in a better awareness of how much a mileage would, would be, whether we pay for it or not. At least we have some idea of how much it, it would be and what it would do. So I think we, Councilwoman.
I mean, not that I'm necessarily I'm not completely 100% opposed to trying it, but I do have a concern with, I would rather not put any more money in the budget this year. So I would have to say I would rather not amend the budget right now to add this project in for this fiscal year, because we do not know what the long-term outcome is going to be with our resources.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Not to put it in the budget yet. Let Director Abraham do his research, and if it looks like something that we want to amend, we'll do it later on. How do you feel about that, Councilwoman?
I mean, I guess I'm fine with that. I do agree with Mr. DeMonico. I don't really necessarily want to go out to bid for something that I don't really want to approve this year because I don't want to spend the money. So it's not even about resurfacing or completely replacing right now. For me, at least, I mean, they both, we need to do something, I agree. But I just don't want to spend the money this year on that project.
I don't think he wasn't going out to bid. He was just going to see what, Mr. Abraham, were you going out to bid to get the specs and all that other stuff? I mean, or you were doing that on your own? How was that working?
I can, if the council authorizes or approves this decision now, I can have AEW, our engineering firm, to prepare the bid documents and then advertise for bids. And then if the bid comes too high, then of course we have the flexibility to cancel or to proceed. Now, to answer the concern or to give an answer to the concern expressed by Councilperson Lucido, even if our revenue comes below what is the traditional revenue, what we used to get, Randy said earlier, we have a fund balance, and that will cover the potential deficit of 10% reduction or some reduction in our overall revenue. So we have some money in the fund balance that will address the deficit. So that means, let's say, if we decide to proceed with 1 mile, yes, we have the funds available to address that.
Councilwoman?
We only have approximately 700,000 in local roads right now left over, correct, Mr. Blum?
It was 600,000.
600,000?
We have 2.5 million in overall in the fund balance of local street fund.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I was just pulling that up while we were talking. Yeah, the current budget had about 700,000 left over, but the fund balance at June 30th of 2019 was 2.1 million. So we do have a cushion.
I don't know. I haven't. I'm not really for resurfacing. I agree. I much rather prefer reconstruction.
Okay. Well, it was just something I thought to bring up because I know we talked about it for a while and it wasn't in the budget, and it was something that we talked about and then never came back to council. And I'm like, okay, if we talk about something, these streets need fixed, and we just don't talk about it anymore, that means nothing's gonna get done. So, okay, I guess, you did major roads. Are we talking, did you finish local, Director Abraham?
No, ma'am. I had.
Okay, were you done with major?
No, I answered all the, I am willing to answer all your questions on major street fund or local street fund or water or sewer fund or rubbish fund or motor pool fund. I can answer any questions you have on any of those funds.
Council, any questions on any of these? I know Councilman DeMonico might want to speak on the water.
If someone else wants to talk first, that's fine.
Well, look, Ms. Lucido, I'm gonna let you go first because Councilman DeMonico has about a couple sheets researched from 1982. I'm gonna let you go first.
All right, hold on here 1 second. Okay, let's see here. Let's start. I have a couple of questions in regards to the replacement of the water supply equipment. My first question would be, I know that Mr. Blum had mentioned, I believe at our last meeting, that there was some that have broken and that's why we're replacing all of them this year. What percentage of them have broken or have had issues? That's the reason why we have to replace them all right now.
Instead of giving a quick direct answer, which may be misleading, let me give you a detailed answer.
Okay.
The present system was installed 14 years back. It was warranted for 10 years. In the last 3 years, we replaced 800 units. Now, that doesn't mean only those are real bad. As and when we come across with some meter transmission unit or register, we replace it. So in the last 3 years itself, we replaced 800 units. And remember, that is out of 13,500. So it is less than even 10%. But as days go by, more and more units are failing. And then it is not warranted. And plus, there are several other issues with the current system. It is not tamper-proof. That means the meter, ma'am, I am sorry to give you a long answer, but
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good. You're good. I appreciate the long answer.
Okay. The present system is not tamper-proof. That means the meter transmission unit and the register, or the register is placed on top of the water meter. And that register is connected in many cases with a simple screw. Anybody who is savvy enough can get a screwdriver from the market and then take that screw off from the register and remove the register from the meter. Let's say somebody wants to fill up a swimming pool. If somebody is crooked enough, they can remove the register from the meter and then fill the swimming pool and then put that the register back. Nobody knows anything. We can never detect that because it is not tamper-proof. There could be several situations like that. Based on the water reliability study that we completed last year, our 5-year average water loss is 14.5%. And we have a lot of residential customer complaints that in many cases, because these units are very old, it gets frozen. The transmission unit may not work or the register may not work. And then the residents may be getting the minimum bill for a couple of months. And then at some point when we go to this resident to replace this meter or the register or the transmission unit, we will find the problem that it was not working. That is why they were getting a minimum bill. And then when we correct the system, the resident can get a huge bill. We are getting several complaints like that. And then the other problem is if we buy these units individually, let's say for the register, we are paying $69 now. And for the meter transmission unit, we are paying $110 now. If we are replacing it in one lump sum, we can save substantial amount of money, which could be over $400,000. And then there is no impact on the water rate just because we are replacing this unit, because it is coming from the capital funds, which Andy can explain later. And there is no impact on the general fund either, because it is coming from the water fund. Now, again, the major reason, ma'am, these are the 7 reasons why we are proposing to replace the system. Again, the first one is the current system is 14 years old. Second, it is not tamper-proof. The third one, the average water loss is 14.5%. The fourth one is reduce customer complaints, because we can send the water bills, accurate water bills, instead of somebody getting a water bill after 5 months or 6 months, many times more, and then they have to come up with a huge amount of money. And then substantial savings if we replace at a stretch, and then no impact on the water bill, and no impact on general fund. These are the 7 main reasons why we are proposing to replace the system.
Can I jump in real quick, Councilwoman Lucido?
Yes.
I guess first of all, that's not how the transmission units work. It just transmits the number from the meter. If you unhook it for a day or something, fill up your pool, once you hook it back in, it's going to transmit the number on the meter. I don't think if you unhook it, it just transmits, I believe, the number on the unit. It'd be hard for me to believe that it's transmitting a different way. You're saying the transmitter does not just transmit the number that's on the unit.
That meter transmission unit is getting the number through the register. The register is the equipment that is on top of the meter. So if the register is removed from the meter, the register is not conveying anything. It is not reading the meter.
Right, but once it reads it again, it's going to read the current reading though, right?
I don't think it will go back and then read that. My understanding is that it does not.
Well, that is to me, that is a very big difference because, well, so I've checked, I'll be frank, I guess. I called 8 different residents in the city. Their meter matches their bill. So if your bill matches, your number on your meter matches the number on your bill, the transmitting unit is working perfectly fine, right? Correct. So if we do this, I guess, to me, not the issue is replacing these ones that are broken, but we're going to be replacing a huge amount of transmission units that are working perfectly fine. I think it seemed to me, I would not want to spend $2.8 million when 90% of it is on units that are working properly, though.
It is only a matter of time, Councilman, because the units are already 14 years old. So we are seeing the current problems now. Problems means more and more units are getting bad. Some of the units are getting frozen. That's why even you have heard or received complaints from the residents that they were complaining about getting a huge water bill all of a sudden. That happens quite frequently. And then customers, the new system will provide or will have many advanced features. That means it will be more user-friendly that the resident can set up a threshold and then that will show if the water bill is too low or if the water bill is too high or what is their consumption and whether they can compare their previous month to current month. So there are so many thresholds we can set up that will go automatically to their phone. So they will not be caught by surprise a huge water bill. They have it will be transparent so the resident can monitor their water bill. And then we also can monitor the water bill and the system will give us an accurate and correct reading. So again, to answer your question, it is already 14 years old. So it is only a matter of time that the system, we will end up in replacing substantially higher number of units. And then we have to replace these bad units anyway. So we will end up in paying more money by $20 more per MTU and then $10 more per register if we buy in small quantity. So we will end up in replacing all these units in the matter of probably in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years at the most. So it is only a matter of time, whether we do it now or whether we do it in installments in the next probably 5, 6 years. That's it. We will end up in replacing these units. That is guaranteed.
How much is one per house?
It depends, ma'am. The quote we received from 3 different consultants 3 months back, that showed yes, the meter transmission units approximately $90, and then the register approximately $58. So and then there will be an installation cost of $45 to $50. So altogether per resident, we are talking about, let's say, $140, about $200, $200+. And the last time when we received 3 quotes, the lowest quote was $2.8 million. But since we are officially soliciting this proposal and then the contractors know that we are looking for approximately 13,500 units, it may come down. We do not know. It may come down. But overall, for 13,500 units, then we may get a bid anywhere between 2.5 to 2.8 or yeah, something like that.
I guess just I'd like to see all these different things written out, like how this unit works. And so you said 800 replaced in the last 3 years. I guess if we could get something written out about that, that's all. I'd like to see that, because to me right now we're replacing, it sounds like we're replacing 95% that are in good shape, expecting they'd eventually not be in good shape. But I mean, all it's doing is counting water. So, I mean, if we could just go out and ask every resident, does your meter match your bill? We could save $2.8 million if everybody's does. I mean, if no one's did, then we should replace them all because they're not working right. But so far I was 8 for 8 where everyone's, meter was matching their bill. So I don't know why we'd replace them if they're working.
Councilperson DeMonico, when the system was put in back in 2006, they did give us a 10-year warranty, but the estimated life on the MTUs were between 15 and 20 years. And we're already at the 14-year mark, which is why we do anticipate a significant number of these failing over the next couple of years. They're battery operated. They will fail. I mean, the battery doesn't live forever. And again, this is one that we knew was coming. And it's just, we could either do it ourselves and spread it out over 5 years using our staff time and paying more per unit, or we can do it as a project and get it done within a year, and then everything's up to snuff. We got new equipment and better technology.
I want to go to Councilwoman Lucido because I know she started and then we interjected her. But were you done?
Yes, I'm done with that part. Yeah, I'm done with that part. So you can finish talking. We're on the subject, so.
Okay, back to you, Mr. DeMonico.
I'm all set too. I guess I've said everything I need to say.
Okay, any
Madam Mayor, just really quick. So just to, I guess right now we're going to leave this in the budget. That's fine. Obviously, we don't have to approve it once we get the bids back, because I'm assuming this would go out to bid. But if we could get more information on it, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Why don't we just, I'll motion to do that then. We just get a brief report on the different questions we've asked now about the MTU report, then submitted to council.
I'll support that.
And I think Mr. Curley, you're muted. I think I see you talking there.
Mr. Curley?
Yeah, I'll second that motion, but I have a question.
Yes, sir, please.
Now that I second it. Randy, I know what you're saying. You know, it would be nice to replace and all have what 13,000 plus units all brand new, but I'd like to know at what rate are we replacing these units right now? You said you replaced 800 over a certain amount of time, and I think we said we have 13,000 plus units, and we got them in 2006, and it's just about the time that for the what they said they would last. But
can't hear you.
You muted yourself.
Oh, yeah, let me know.
How did I mute myself? I better stop doing that. Anyway, I would like to have that question answered about what is the rate that we're replacing them right now, and do we really need to spend all that money at one time, or just replace them when they go bad? But I support the motion.
If I could just add in too, what about just replacing the battery then? I don't know what kind of battery these things use, but imagine just handing out a battery bill.
It doesn't come with a battery separately, council person.
So
we cannot buy the battery by itself.
You cannot.
No.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're gonna, a motion and a support was put on the floor to get more information on this subject before we make a final decision on this. Mr. Fairbrother?
All righty. Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
And Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abraham. We wanted to finance, assessing.
I have another water question.
Okay, let's go back to E. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so my other question would be if we can just, so I realize that our rates for this year for water are going up 3% for sewage. I think it was sewage. And we're asking to raise our rates 8.3%. So if we get some more information on that.
Randy?
Yep. I'll take this one over. I actually prepared something that, well, it's simplistic. So let me figure out how to share this thing. Share screen.
Did you email it?
Oh, Brian, you disabled me.
No, we still see you.
No, for sharing what's on my screen.
Oh, you're on your screen.
I don't want to be on your screen.
Now, Mr. Blum, while you're fixing that, does that hike and increase have anything to do with the expansion of the Chapel?
No,
no.
the answer is no.
No, okay.
The Chapel expansion comes out of the Chapter 20 drain debt millage.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the water sewer rates.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Brian, you gonna fix me?
I am working on allowing you to be a co-host. Zoom has changed some of the features here. They implemented this waiting room feature and a few other things. So, you know, I don't see it right offhand, admittedly.
Well, that stinks. It's gonna be kind of hard to explain this without them seeing what's on my screen.
Can you send a quick email to all the council real quick and directors?
Or can you just send it to Brian and have him put it on there?
Yeah, that too.
Well, then he's got to be pointing at what I'm talking about. Try that.
Brian, can you do it in the list of participants? Make him, like you said, make him a host there or something like
Got
that.
that right now. And when I hit more, there's only allow record, rename, put in waiting room, remove. I can spotlight his video. I can try spotlight his video.
Not sure what that means.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we're looking for. So Randy, if you want to send it to me, I can just share my screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to find everything I need to send you.
Or you can just email it to us.
Or email it to everyone. Yeah.
So we can follow along. You need a copy anyway.
So while we're trying to figure out what to do, the rate increase in rate would be 8.3. Is that right? What you said? Yeah, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So our question is, why is it so high?
Okay. So Brian, do you have it? There should be 3 files, 2 PDFs and an Excel file.
Yes.
All right. Can you put up the 2 PDFs starting with explanation 1?
All righty, let's try this. Share screen. Fixed cost versus usage sale.
Yep. There we go. Look at that. Okay, so I kept it simple. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So we have an Apple store, not Cardi's kind of Apple store, though.
Yeah, I'm an Android person.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I am too. Can you scroll down, Brian? So this uses an example where we're going to sell 1,000 apples. So we got to buy 1,000 apples. I've got $900 of fixed costs for my fruit stand, and I can buy apples at 10 cents a piece for a total of $100. It generates $1,000 worth of cost. I then have to sell each one of those 1,000 apples at $1 to generate the money to cover my cost. Can you go over to explanation 2? All right. Suddenly there's a pandemic and I'm forced to do carry out only. In this case, I'm now going to only be able to sell 350 apples. I still buy them at 10 cents a piece, but I still have $900 of fixed cost. So my cost have dropped from 1,000 to 935, but I now have to sell every apple for $2.67 to cover my expenses. And that is the simplistic version of water sewer rates. We have cost, we have units that we sell, and sometimes they go in conflict with each other where cost goes up, but sales are going down. Brian, can you go over to the Excel spreadsheet? No, not that one. Click on the second tab. Okay. This is the spreadsheet that is used to generate water sewer rates. There are various elements that come into this. The first element is the Great Lakes Water Authority estimates how much we will be purchasing from them, and they based it on past volumes. Their estimate dropped from 1,080,000 something last year to 1,048,000 units this year. We then have to make an assumption on our water loss. You heard Director Abraham discussing that in a historical 5-year view, it was about 14.5. Because of the water main replacements, we have been able to reduce our water loss, and we use a 12.5% loss factor when calculating this. That would tell us that we are going to sell 917,000 units, and that is the usage version of what we sell. There are various revenues that make up water sewer. So there's we have unmetered water. If there's a project and somebody's coming in and using a fire hydrant, we will charge them an amount to pay for the water they're going to use. If somebody puts in a water tap, there's a charge for that. There's a fire service line charge for all businesses that have fire suppression systems. When those go off, they bypass the meter and the water just flows. So they pay a monthly amount for the potential fire. There are some miscellaneous revenues from penalties, excuse me, from late penalties, from investment income, things like that. So a chunk of that's applied to water. But everything else has to come from selling water to the residents. And that is what the $4,374,000 represents. The cost for water sewer, you got scroll down too far. There's $1,611,000 of cost, and that is based on how much we will be purchasing from GLWA. And they have gone to a pricing structure where 60% of that 1.6 million is fixed. It doesn't matter if we buy a single drop of water from them, we will pay 60% of that number. The other portion is variable based on how much we actually spend. The water additional cost for water operations is the cost of personnel going out fixing water main breaks, the cost of pavement repair after there's been a water main break and we dug the road up. There are supplies that go in from gravel to backfill holes, things like that. So we've got about $3 million of related expenses to maintain the system. So at the $4.77 a unit on water, we generate about 4.6 million in revenue to cover our 4.6 million in expense. On the sewer side, we do have some sewer tap inspection fees. We budget about 24,000 on that. Again, a portion of the miscellaneous revenues gets allocated over to sewer, and then the rest is driven based on volume sales of $8 million that you see there. Now, on the sewer side, we have a fixed charge that comes from the sanitary district. It is 100% fixed. Their allocation is done based on a 5-year look back on flows that come out of Eastpointe versus St. Clair Shores versus Roseville versus all the other member communities. But they set their budget and it is a fixed amount for that fiscal year. And it doesn't matter, again, if we buy no water or if we buy 3 million units. Our price from sanitary district is going to be 6.8 million. And that is our current estimate. We have not seen their final budget numbers, so we're hoping that that's at least close. Then the 1.6 million under that is additionally it's personnel to go out and vector a catch basin or repair a sewer break, repair a catch basin, all of the personnel activity related to that. So what you have is, yes, the sewage treatment went up 3%. The water purchases from GLWA, that was going up about, well, the fixed portion went up about 6%. The usage portion went up about 4%. So it was a little bit higher, but it's also a smaller number. But we also have a decline in the number of units that we will be selling. And it becomes a vicious cycle. The more we raise the rates, the less units we're going to sell, which means the higher the price we have to charge to cover our cost. But that's where you end up with this 8.3% increase when our costs are not going up 8.3. It's because we're selling less units, but we still have so much fixed cost that has to be covered. But that's currently what's in the budget. I would like to discuss another option, and it doesn't have to be decided tonight, but Brian, could you flip over to number 2, the very first tab? Exact same numbers, exact same modeling. The only thing I've done is, and a lot of communities have done this, is they're moving to more fixed charges and less volume-based charges. I put in a scenario of a $2 per month fixed charge for water and a $4 per month fixed charge for sewage. If something like that was implemented, then the rates would actually only change by 0.1%. Now, it's going to generate the same amount of revenue that the city needs. It's just going to come to the city in a different method, and it's going to be a more consistent revenue stream than what we currently have. So those are kind of the two options. The more that moves to fixed, the less has to be on the usage side. I know my, excuse me, my water bill in Clinton Township, there are so many fixed charges on it that I know people in Eastpointe think their water bill's expensive. Until you get to 10 units in Eastpointe, my water bill in Clinton Township is more expensive just because of all the fixed charges. You know, my minimum bill is significantly higher than it is here. But that's because Clinton Township is in the same boat everybody else is. Charges have become fixed. Usage is either steady or declining, and that's a method to alleviate shortfalls when people don't buy enough water. And that, I mean, that, I don't know what else to say on it, but if you have any questions, let's go ahead.
Council, any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I could jump in. So, Mr. Blum, when we talked the other day, I mean, it was the water operations part, because not the GLWA bill or the SEMSD, because as we're saying, so if we just go, let's just go from last year, you know, so our SEMSD bill went up 3%, but, you know, with your budgeted figures here, we're also receiving 300,000 more in revenue. And then the same thing with the water, we're going to receive another 400,000 in revenue, but our bill is essentially exactly the same for GLWA. So the amount's not, the 8.3% increase is not from GLWA or SEMSD. It must be from water and sewer operations.
Well, it's going to be a combination of, yes, water sewer operations, but you have a 3.5% decline in purchases. So while the GLWA year over year is fairly constant, there's a 3% decline in purchases, which means you actually have a 4% increase in charges, because we're buying less at a higher price. It's kind of the reverse of what I was doing in my Apple store. You know, we're buying less items, but at a more expensive cost, and therefore it stays this, or appears to stay the same.
Well, but even with reduced usage, right, though, you're still, I mean, if we look at metered water sales and sewage disposal charges, they both, I mean, water goes up $400,000 in revenue, and sewage goes up 260,000. If we don't have that 8.3 per, I mean, don't we, like I don't think it's not GLWA and SEMSD, I guess. Like, are we spending more on water operations, like, in the city? Because we're receiving more money from metered water sales and sewage disposal charges, but our bills are less. Well, the bill's the same for water, and the bill's only going up 3% for sewage. But we're getting more than 3%, I think, right here. Well, maybe it's about the same for sewage, but then we're bringing in 400,000 more in water when our bill's only going up like 11 grand. I'm looking at, I guess for everyone, I'm looking on page 64 for revenue in the line item.
Thank you.
And 66 and 69, you'll see the two big numbers. For
I don't even know what I did this time.
yeah, for the appropriations, for the expenditures.
Right.
I don't know what I just did.
right, so I guess I'm trying to ask, Mr. Blum, so our metered water sales from last year are going up from 3.9 million to 4.3 million. And our sewage disposal charges 7.7 to 8.0. So that's with, of course, the 8.3% you're talking about, right?
Correct.
I guess if we take that out, it's still probably an increase. And I think, does it not match? I guess if we took that 8.3% increase out on revenue, how would that number compare? Like, I feel like it looks like the numbers are from elsewhere. It's not from, I don't know, there's so many line items, it's hard to tell. I don't know if Councilwoman Zito knew.
I guess water sewer is different than a general fund because it's considered an enterprise fund. So it's accounting wise, it's treated more as a business. So something in the budget for like depreciation, that's an accounting entry, has no cash impact whatsoever. I ignore that when setting rates because it's a non-cash item.
Yeah.
I don't factor depreciation into your water rates or they'd be even higher. Whereas capital improvements is cash going out the door, but we capitalize that, turn it into a fixed asset at the end of the year, and it doesn't appear in the final numbers for the previous year's activity because it's now over on the balance sheet as an asset and it's not sitting there as an expenditure, but cash did go out the door. And it can get a little complicated to track that kind of stuff. What I can tell is it looks like water operations is probably $500,000 higher than last year. And from the expenditure side, I cannot speak to that. Sewer, the biggest change on the sewer side is the sanitary district increase.
Is it $500,000? So the operations, like you're saying, so what if it was zero? What if it wasn't $500,000? What would the water sewer increase need to be?
If we somehow cut $500,000 of operations out?
Well, I don't know. Somehow this fiscal year, right? You're saying we do it $500,000 less. Where's that $500,000 at?
I'm hoping Director Abraham is on.
Yeah, I lost those numbers, Randy.
Okay. And with this screen display, I can't get over to any of the other. All right, hang on. No.
Councilwoman Lucido, did you? Is this?
No, I'm with you right here. Yeah, because it's confusing because we're spending less on purchased water, it looks like to me, because we're lowering the rate we're paying for water, not how much we're charging for water usage. We're only increasing the sewage. That's where.
Well, if you're looking at the rate compared to last year's rate, remember we did a rate study with AEW?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the previous city manager sort of took control of that. And while the total numbers were correct, the ultimate result with a split between water sewer was grossly off. The rates should never have been what they were. In total, they're fine. The $12.52 in total that we charge is the correct amount, but the split between water sewer got kind of messed up with some, we'll just call it misguidance. So the current year rates are correcting last year's split as well as reflecting increased cost. Okay. Yeah, if you're going unit by unit comparison, it's Yeah, that's not a true, I mean, it is a reduction in water rate, but it's not, it's only because last year's water rate was too high and last year's sewer rate was too low.
Yeah, I guess I see, like, so engineering fees went from 53K to 517K. Is that the 500,000 right there? That's like bottom of page 66. It's like the 802 line item there.
That is in the water fund, actually, the engineering fee for the water main replacement projects we are planning. That is a total cost of $3.5 million. So we have to pay the design and inspection fee for the water main replacement. That is not sewer though, that is water.
Yeah, I'm in the water. Yeah, yep. So on a 3 million.
That's something that I normally would treat as part of the capital expense, now that you're pointing that out.
Okay.
Design for a project is part of the project cost normally.
Sure.
So, I mean, if that is, Joe's, is the 517 100% related to water main projects?
I guess that is what it says. Yeah, design and inspection fee for water main replacement.
You guys let us all know, not just, we need to all know what page you are on so we all can follow through, not just certain people. So tell us what page you're on looking at so we can all follow along.
66.
Okay, I was on 66 and on, okay.
Randy, the answer is yes, that 517. Randy, the answer is yes, the 517 is to pay for the design and inspection of the water main replacements.
Okay, so if the 517, if I take that out and move it down to capital and I take it out of the water cost, I will have to, I can calculate it right now if, oh, it says you can control, no, I need to get to Excel. Brian, is there any way you can release it so I can get to my Excel?
Randy, you now have control of my screen if you accept it. Oh, yeah, if I stop moving my mouse, you have control. So if you want to just open up a tab down there, just hit the plus sign.
All right, let me see.
On the current Excel document.
And I think then maybe, Randy, the part that might make more sense then, I guess I see another big difference is with pavement repairs on the next page. Well, except not from last year, just from 2 years ago, though. We 2 years ago had 225,000. Now we have 600,000 related to water main breaks. It looks like we've tripled the water main breaks from fiscal year 19 to 20.
No, that is not, that has nothing to do with the water main breaks alone. That is the money we are spending for the miscellaneous street repair. 3 years back, we hardly did anything. Only last year, we started doing some miscellaneous street repair as a result of water and sewer main breaks. So,
wouldn't that go in major and local streets then instead of?
No, it is not a result of major street fund. It is a product of water main break and sewer main break.
So we put the miscellaneous street repairs in the water and sewer fund?
Yeah, because the street repairs are as a result of the sewer main break or water main break.
No, but sometimes it's not right if the street's just in bad shape. We're replacing.
That is a different contract called concrete pavement repair. That is the contract we awarded, or we divided the city into 17 years, and then last 3 years or last 2 years, we have been doing one area at a time. Fortunately, we did area 1 and 2, and then we did area 3 last 1, 2, and 3 last year. This year, we are going to do area 3 and area 4. But that is purely different. That is the street that is in bad shape. We are repairing it. But the miscellaneous street repair is purely as a result of water main or sewer main break.
Okay.
Brian, I cannot get it to minimize on my computer.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to get to an Excel spreadsheet on my computer.
Oh,
So
you have to
need
send it to me, I think.
Well,
Because
I
you have
can't do
access to my computer. I don't have access to yours.
Right, and with however you've got it structured, the Zoom has taken over and I can't do anything. I can't even minimize Zoom to get off to someplace else.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to hit exit full screen at the view options at the top, exit full screen. But also, yeah, like, are you trying to edit the Excel sheet that
Yes,
is on
trying to
his
get to my
screen?
calculations sheet, yep.
Well, the one that's on Brian's screen, or it's a whole different spreadsheet?
It's a whole different spreadsheet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're going to email it to Brian and then edit it?
Well, no, because I got to play around with it.
Well, Brian was giving you access to his screen. We can't figure out how to share your screen. So if you email it to him, and then he can give you access to play around on his screen.
There we go. Hold on, I got it. I got back to mine. All right, so let me remove $500,000 from water. All right, and if I go here, knock that down. Okay. If we take the $500,000 out, the engineering, we move it over to capital, the water rate would change to 4.27, and the blended increase would be 4.3.
Okay, so it's even with the $500,000 cut, we'd still need a 4% increase.
Yep. But it is appropriate to take the $500,000 out based on the information tonight.
Okay. Well, then I motion in favor of that.
Better than 8.3.
Is that what you said, Moni?
I will support that.
Yeah.
I support it too.
And where did you take that 500? You said out of the operations part?
Right, out of the water operations and moved it over to water capital.
Now, why was that in there? I guess we still didn't get that answer. Why was it in there?
Well, it's in a line item that is not where the capital numbers come from, and that was why it was missed. It's in engineering fees as part of operations, unless it's part of a project. If it's part of a project, it's normally put into the system improvement line, which is further down, and that's where all the capital comes from.
Okay, but you're not for sure where that was going? Why you?
Well, Director Abraham indicated that was it was for construction projects, engineering for construction projects.
Yes,
so it's appropriate to move it.
Okay, but what construction projects were they for? I guess that's what I'm. Because if you had a construction project in mind, then it needs to stay there. But you're moving money, and no one knows why it was moved there and why is it taken away.
That is for the proposed water main replacement projects that are planned. That is included in the 3.5 million budgeted in the capital fund.
Okay.
If you go to the bottom of page 67, you'll see $3,555,000 for system improvements. And then you got to flip it over to the next page to get the footnote.
I'm sorry, we're talking about. We're looking at this book, correct? The one that
line items.
The line item with footnotes that I sent to everybody.
Okay, was that the one you sent earlier today?
Oh no, that was sent last Friday in the Friday packets. It was a hard copy.
No.
Trying to get the light back on. All right. We're having technical difficulties over here. Okay, I'm back. All this time I'm looking in this information in the book that I got.
While she's looking, Randy,
Yes.
if the council were to go with a fixed price, as you mentioned, perhaps a $2 per household, what would that look like for an increase?
Let's see if I can get back over. Okay, so if I go back to there, I take the 500,000 out of here.
Oh, I don't have that. Those pages.
Well, if we just saved $500,000, we should only have to do $1 increase.
Well, be good to move to more fixed charges. So, all right, if we took the 500,000, well, I've already taken it out. It would, on a usage end of it, it would actually be a 3.9% decrease. It's just there would then be a fixed $6 a month between the two fixed charges. But the total would drop to $12.03 per unit for usage.
Well, you meant $2 a month, right? It's only $6 if you do the service line protect, right?
No, my proposal was $2 per month fixed water and $4 per month fixed sewer as new charges.
Oh, I missed the 4.
I missed that too.
Yeah.
I missed the 4 for sewer. I saw the 2 for water.
Was that in the what's in front of us on the part 2? On the apples part 2, I think you have.
Yeah, we shouldn't be on this one.
Oh, okay. I thought you had it on that one.
Hang on.
Oh,
It
it's
would be,
on
yeah,
next.
this rate 2.
Yeah.
So I have $2 fixed water, $4 fixed sewer.
Okay.
And how does that $6 how does that
Pardon me?
$6 compare to the 8.3?
Well, it's now going to be 4.3. And then if the $6 were put into place, it would actually be a 3.9% reduction.
3.9 out of the 8.3.
What if you had a $3 sewer? Rather than a reduction, if it could be a flat rate and then no increase, no decrease.
All right. Trying to get back to where I'm supposed to be here. Oh, come on.
Now,
Oh, come on. I can't get back to the spreadsheet for some reason.
oh, sure you can.
Put that,
Here you go.
All right, let me see if I can do it. Hang on. Let's do this. I might change that. Okay, so that's good. So we changed that to 3. I need to go up about 10 cents. Brings us in line. Okay, so if you go to $3 fixed charge on sewer, you'd still see a 3.1% decrease on the blended rate. I mean, I can play around with this any way we want if you give me direction, but the easiest thing to know is it's 4.3 increase unless we do a fixed charge.
Okay. Council, so we keep it going.
Yeah.
You guys want him to continuously work on that, or
Yeah, I think our main concern was just that the rate didn't seem to make sense according to the GLWA and SEMSD changes. That's why. So yeah, I guess if we look at those other details, maybe we can figure out a different thing like we just did. We cut it in half, I guess, just now. So.
you have something for us tomorrow, Mr. Blum? We have another meeting tomorrow anyway, so
Well, hopefully we can move through it tonight.
I'm with Mr. Blum.
Well, it's looking better than it did an hour ago.
Yep.
So we have right now we got two choices on the table, right? A 4.3 or the $5 fixed.
$5 fixed with a 3.1 reduction. Yep.
I'd probably like to talk more about it with you. If you can find some time tomorrow. I don't want to make a decision on something just changed and just brought to my attention. I would like to actually have a breakdown. I don't want to waste everybody's time sitting here talking about something about rates and stuff. So I would like to have better knowledge on this vote. If I can talk to you about it, tomorrow. So if you're changing up rates and fix and things like that, I mean, I'm not an engineer, didn't go to water all this school and all this information. So I want to have a better breakdown. Councilwoman.
Yeah, okay, one quick question. So, I mean, I would like to keep the rates as close to what we are paying now and have the lowest amount of fee. I guess for me, that's as simple to me.
Mhm.
We can eliminate any of those fees by keeping our rates as close as possible. I mean, that's the motion I would make to, try to balance this out, however that would work. I know Mr. Blum would have to, run the numbers and figure out what we're going to get that the closest.
Right, Mr. Blum. Get us.
He doesn't need to do that now. I mean, I think that's just where I'd be coming from.
Well, yeah. Tomorrow I will fix the original one, and then I will give some options with these alternatives.
Okay.
But I hear where you're going. Target a 0% increase and then make the fixed whatever it needs to be.
And we could put you on the agenda. We could put you on the agenda tomorrow night then.
Oh, he's already on the agenda.
Well, I mean, I was hoping to get everything through today, but.
Well, not if everything is not understood today. I mean,
no, I understand.
We already have something already, I mean, like you said, if he comes back with, because we always can amend and do things like that. So even if you go to what the fixed rate is, I would, like Councilwoman Lucido and Councilman DeMonico, is not pay more, but how you fixing those rates, I don't want to come back to where years later we got to catch up again and overcharge people again, and it's another surprise. So I want to know where all these changes are coming from, why they were on here in the first place. I just want to know more history about it then, so that's just where I'm coming from. So that's to move $500,000 and then everything changes. I want to know why I was there and has it been there the last couple of years and where this stuff coming from? Because that's $500,000 that we just changed all of a sudden because of a mishap. That's a big mishap. So I just want to know a little bit more. That's all on my end. I don't want it to come bite us. That money should have been there, and then we are increasing rates and things like that. I just want a better understanding. And that is, anybody else want to say anything on that?
Thank you, Randy.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Blum. So if you can take some time on Mr. Blum and we can sit down and I can have a better understanding. I want to, of what's going on and things like that. The 500,000 and Mr. Abraham, you just email me when it's a good time for you, and we can talk about.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
If I'm out of order, tell me so. But we scheduled tonight and tomorrow night for a budget hearing. It's almost 9 o'clock. We have F and G, and then the mayor and council reports. I'm guessing another hour and a half or 2 hours maybe. Then plus Randy would come back tomorrow. So I'm suggesting that we adjourn and finish up with Randy tomorrow night and F and G, and then the mayor and council reports. Just a suggestion.
I was thinking the same thing.
Whoa.
I'm glad you made that suggestion. Yes. Since we have to come back tomorrow anyway, I know a lot of people want to finish it off, but since we have to come back anyway, and Randy, Mr. Blum is going to have that information. What do the other council people think? Cardi?
Yeah, I would support that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, everybody was thinking the same thing. It's not.
They're thinking the same thing.
I got my pajamas
I won't
on.
argue with you.
You won't argue with me. So
Yeah,
I would.
You guys get no argument out of me.
Okay. All right then.
Well, so we just have, Mr. Blum is going to update some things. And again, if you have some time tomorrow before we come back, just let me know, and we can do Zoom, or you can call me. You have sent me emails me some of those things, Mr. Abraham, you as well. And so I have a better understanding of why is money in there, $500,000 moved from one place to another, and rates can automatically change all of a sudden. I want to just have a better understanding. I know mistakes happen, but I want to know $500,000, where did that come from, and how can it be moved so easily? So we'll continue tomorrow's meeting with F and G, mayor and council reports. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Curley?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
And Mayor Owens?
Yes, meeting adjourned. You guys have a safe night. See you tomorrow.
You too.
You too.
All right,
Thank
you guys have a good night.
You too.
Take care.
Tell James I said hi.
I will.
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
God bless.
Good night.
God bless.